wanted to let you know, if you do want to speak and you haven't filled out a speaker's card yet, we would ask that you would fill out a speaker's card. Claire has those over here. Just fill those out. And then when we get to public comments, she will call you up. When you come up and speak, you've got 3 minutes to speak. I'll get into that as we get a little bit later on. So, give us a minute. That was a long closed session. You ready? All right, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the, what are we at? April 12th, right? Sheesh, this day is rolled. April 12th County Council meeting. Thanks for coming out tonight. We will start with our invocation. Debbie Bartlett is here from the St. Charles United Methodist Church to lead us in that. Thank you for coming back as always. We appreciate you praying for us. And then I will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. If you would, please stand. Take off your caps, please.
We ask for your presence in our lives, and especially during this evening's meeting. Give to this council guidance and wisdom as they stand in the gap for us and for this great county. We continue to pray for those who have been, who are, and who will be affected by all that encompasses COVID-19. The physical, mental, spiritual, emotional, and financial burdens are great. And we know that not everyone is affected equally or justly. Grant that we may come out of this crisis with open eyes, more fully available to the needs of those most vulnerable. Send your blessings upon our county executive, the members of this council, and all those serving in St. Charles County governance. May they continue to be instruments of hope, healing, and peace for all people of St. Charles County. With grateful hearts we pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may be seated. Call the roll, please.
Councilman Cronin.
Here.
Councilman Brazel.
Here.
Councilman Hammond.
Here.
Councilman Elam.
Here.
Councilman Hollander.
Here.
Councilwoman Schneider.
Here.
Councilman White.
Here.
First up tonight is conditional use permits. We're starting with bill number 4944.
And you will swear in the planning and zoning division director first?
Oh, did I completely skip that? Oh, sorry, Robert. Hi.
That's fine.
Do you solemnly swear that you will tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
So you want to tell us a little bit about
Certainly.
CUP 2103?
This is an application for, the address is 17 Placid Drive, and the application is for a conditional use permit to operate a group home facility for up to 12 persons residing as one household and located within a single-family residential neighborhood. The applicant is LIV Recovery Sober Living, a Missouri not-for-profit organization, Cameo Jones, registered agent, and Cameo's in the audience tonight and will be called upon later for any information she might be able to provide. The applicant states that the group home is designed to provide a structured living environment to support sobriety. It would include a house manager 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Under the organization's standards and rules, to qualify for acceptance, residents must complete a 30-day addiction treatment program, undergo a background check and drug screening before moving into the group home. The applicant states that the organization is nationally accredited by the National Alliance of Recovery Residents. And I would say also that this specific type of group home is allowed as part of the definition for the county's zoning ordinance under a group home. It specifically cites Oxford House, Inc., which is a type of sobriety living arrangement. It's a structured living environment. And so this falls under the definition for consideration for group home approval under St. Charles County. According to a testimony at the public hearing at the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting, the group home has been operating for approximately 1 year. The property owners several years ago obtained county building permits for a residence, but not as a group home. And as part of converting the house to a group home, the county will require building and safety improvements, including installation of sprinklers. So I mention that because should this be approved by the county council, there's still more work to do in terms of ensuring that the house meets all the building code requirements for a group home, including sprinklers. Just for context, the county zoning ordinance allows the Planning and Zoning Division Director to approve group homes for up to 8 residents, as long as it meets certain standards, without having to go to the Planning and Zoning Commission or the county council. In this case, they're asking for up to 12 residents, and because of that, it requires a conditional use permit approval. You may know from reading the packet that the Planning and Zoning Commission recommends, rather than 12 residents, that a maximum of 10, and also has additional condition. They recommend to address parking, which has, according to our public testimony at the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting, many speakers cited parking as a problem in terms of parking in the front yard, parking on the street, and et cetera, and over occupancy, and just a concern about that the change of character for a group home presents within a single-family residential district environment. Probably the main concern that I heard, or one of the main concerns, was Plaza Drive is a private, very narrow street. It's maybe, 1.5 lanes wide. It's gravel. It was platted in the 1950s, and so any parking that encroaches within that street has an effect on the neighbors and their access to their property. So again, the Planning and Zoning Commission is recommending a condition to include 6 off-street parking spaces. At the public hearing, we had 10 speakers in support, 8 opposed, and 3 concerns. We have 10 letters of opposition in your packets. After the close of the public hearing, the Planning and Zoning Commission recommended 7 in favor and 0 against approval with certain conditions, and those conditions are in the draft ordinance that's before you tonight, and include addressing land use impacts for occupancy and parking primarily.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions? Mr. Cronin?
Robert, I've kind of read through this pretty good, and if I understand, this group home's been there about a year, correct? Okay.
Yeah, yes.
And you can administratively approve up to 7 residents, right?
8.
8, okay. Okay, but, well, I watched the P&Z meeting, somebody said 8 to 12, you need a CUP, so, okay.
Yes,
So
right.
either way, so what we're really talking about is whether they should expand from 7 residents or 7 or 8 residents up to 12, correct? That's
Right.
the guts of it, right?
Yes,
Okay.
that's the way I view it. Yeah, at the Planning and Zoning Commission, I mistakenly cited up to 7 residents, and it's actually up to 8. So
Okay.
I had to correct myself later in the meeting, and
Okay,
I'm
okay.
sorry about that.
But the home's been there for a year already, basically, close to, something like that?
That's my understanding. We received a complaint on November 4th, 2020, to look at the question of parking in the front yard, potential over-occupancy. So when we contacted the operator of the group home, they right off said, yes, we have a group home, and we'd like to do whatever is necessary to make it right and bring it into conformity.
Okay, but if they were operating a group home with 7 people, they would still need some type of permitting that they didn't acquire, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so basically, they've been operating that thing pretty much illegally for the last year.
Yes. yeah.
Okay, that's all I need to know.
So to
Mr. Brazel.
clarify that, did you say that they've been operating illegally for the last year?
They've been operating without a group home permit.
Okay, so that would be
Charles
illegal.
County.
Correct?
Excuse me?
So would that be illegal?
It would be, yes,
Okay.
yeah,
All right.
yeah. Under the county's zoning standards, a household can have up to 3 unrelated individuals. Above that amount, the only way to do that is with a group home permit.
Okay.
Yeah, but
Mr. Brazel.
that's pretty hard to regulate if you got cousins and whatever. I mean, I don't know. I don't, but anyway, how many bedrooms are in this house?
My understanding, there's
5.
4 bedrooms, and then there's a 5th area where there's a sleeping area and a 5th area as well.
And so is there parking? It says a 54-foot driveway, but is there a parking lot or what is there?
No, there's a gravel driveway that leads to the side of the house, and that leads from Placid Drive.
So what kind of background checks do they do on the folks who come into the facility?
They could answer that question specifically, but the information that was provided to us was there's a background check that uses the Missouri State Highway Patrol system.
And who monitors if there's 12 people or 16 people? Who is actually paying attention to that?
Building code enforcement.
But they wouldn't know. How would they know? I'm just asking.
It's the same situation if we received any report of over-occupancy. I mean, we would go and investigate and check up to see if there's over-occupancy.
Any other questions?
Not at this time, whenever the applicant comes up.
Speaking of which, would you please introduce the applicant?
Yes, I'd like to introduce Cameo Jones, the applicant.
Kemi, would you please come forward? Donna will swear you in.
Do you solemnly swear that you will tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Do you want to tell us a little bit about the home, and then we'll ask some questions?
Yeah, so me and my husband are the owner of LIV Recovery Sober Living. We are a non-for-profit. We've been there for about a year, and we have a recovery home that's nationally accredited by NARR. And we have a total currently of 9 residents there. And it's a structured living where they're required to go to meetings, they have to have a sponsor, they have to have a job, in-house meetings, chores, just an extensive list and structure that we have in place. And me, my staff, and my house manager hold those residents accountable to that.
Okay. Questions?
You don't live in the home, do you?
I currently do not, no, I do not live in the home, but we have a house manager that does.
Do you live in the area? Or
We live in St. Charles, yes, sir.
Do you have any pictures of it? I don't see any pictures, Robert. Are there any pictures in the packet of the house?
Yeah, pictures of the outside. Oh, and they're photos from the street, I guess.
Joe?
Not of the
outside.
inside.
Oh, the outside though? I don't see it in here,
It's an
okay.
attachment to the
Probably on the
bill.
bill, attachment to the bill.
Okay.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
Hold on, okay, the background checks. What kind of background checks do you do on all folks who live there, correct?
Yes, sir.
And
So-
yeah.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
So we pay a monthly fee for a background check, because we have to do that for the Department of Mental Health, like all of our certifications that we have. We're required to do it on our staff as well, and we have to turn this in every year, and we have to add that to our file. And so we just pay a monthly fee to where when a client puts in their application, we do a phone assessment, we also do a background check before we approve them to get into our home.
And so, if have you had any problems in the last year? Have you had any police calls or anything like that to your facility?
So if we have a resident that is being asked to leave, we do call the police for safety measures for, one, making sure that the resident gets to a place safely, and, or if they need to be transported because they have been intoxicated so that they are not driving, or those types of things. That's when we call the police to get involved for safety measures for the resident and for staff. And
Have you had any problems with, like, any of the residents calls and are having arguments with the neighbors, or any loud music or loud parties or none of that stuff?
we don't have any of those issues at our house, no. And, no.
And if you didn't have this place, if this place did shut down, what would happen to the residents?
Most likely they'd be homeless.
Okay.
Mr. White?
How long have you owned the property?
We do not own the property. We rent from the owners, which we turned in, that the owner is approved. They specifically got this house for us, which is why I didn't know I needed this permit, because he said that he did all of these things for us prior to getting the house.
How long has he owned the property?
For over a year, I believe.
So the property was bought just for this purpose? Mm-hmm. Okay. When you bought the property, did you discuss any of this with the neighborhood?
We did not.
You did not?
No. Well, I mean, we did introduce ourselves, like our director introduced himself, but we did not just go to each person in the neighborhood and introduce ourselves, no.
Did you contribute to the street maintenance with the other neighbors? There was somebody speaking about how they maintain their own streets. Have you addressed that problem? Have you paid a little bit more because you have more residents?
No, we weren't aware of that process yet. Again, we've only been there a year, but we were more than willing, because we do community service once a month as a house. They're required to do that in order to live there. So it's not something that we are not willing to do. We are more than willing to contribute to anything needed for the neighborhood.
It just seems like there's kind of a stealth situation where you came into a neighborhood and the neighbors did not know what it was, and you didn't contribute to the maintenance of the road?
It's more so, we didn't say anything because we try to keep the residents confidential. Not everyone wants to know that, they want people to know that they're living in a recovery home. So it's not that we're necessarily hiding, it's just we want those things to be the choice of the resident and not just spread the word that they're there.
So you're more concerned with the residents than you were about the neighborhood?
No, sir. We're very concerned about the neighborhood. We're in the community because we're here to help the community. So we're more than concerned about the neighbors.
But you haven't done anything to contribute to the maintenance of the road, or anything? Did you not understand that? Does the owner of the house, did he not understand that?
This is the first time honestly, this last meeting was the first time we heard about being able to do certain things like that. We were not aware of what needs to be done with the roads and all of that. We didn't know that we could contribute to those things. It's not that we didn't want to or not willing to, just not aware that we're able to.
Yeah. When you knew that there were to be several parking issues there, and the way the property is laid out, it falls off pretty drastically behind. I don't see how a parking lot could be put behind the house. Did you think ahead and think about the planning of that?
Sorry, excuse me. Yes, so parking wasn't an issue because most of the residents didn't have vehicles. We didn't have any vehicles there. Everyone who moved into our home did not have a vehicle. But because the way our program progressed, and they progressed in our program, they acquired vehicles. But they did not come to the home with vehicles. So parking was never an issue, and that's usually not an issue.
Well, I commend you what you're trying to do, but
Yes, sir.
I
And
don't commend you for not having better planning.
And I understand, but we're here to resolve the issue. We have already in place they put a requirement that we have to get gravel put in the back so they can park. And as of yesterday, gravel has been put down and all the residents are parking in the back and 20 feet away from the street.
Mr. Hollander?
Yes, couple of things. First of all, at the planning and zoning, you mentioned this is totally a male facility. Is
Yes,
that
sir.
correct? Okay,
Yes, sir.
and there's presently 10 people that are, 10
There was
residents.
at that meeting, yes. Currently, it's 9 now, but yes, there was 10.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
As for the stealth part of this, I think part of the responsibility lies in the fact that the person that purchased this home for you didn't do their due diligence, okay? The second part, and I made this at the planning and zoning, is that this is kind of an unusual situation in that both sides have the same argument, okay? Your argument is, hey, we've been here for almost a year, and it was 10 months before you even knew that we were here, okay? Their argument, some of the neighbors, is that, wait a minute, you've been here for a year, and it's been 10 months, and we didn't know you were here.
Yes, sir.
So I think in some respects, the fact that you had this community and it was there for at least 10 months to a year before the neighbors ever realized that it was a group home, I think that can be looked at both ways also.
Yeah, we do not, just for clarity, we don't cause any trouble. We're not disrespectful to the neighbors, residents. We are not a hinder to the neighborhood. We're not. If we're a benefit, we're an asset. We do not cause any issues with anyone, hence why no one knew we were there. I completely understand where everyone's perspective is of us not being forthcoming and talking to each neighbor, but it's not something that my residents want to broadcast. They just want to be and exist and just get back on the right track, and that's all it is, without any judgments from others, which is part of the reason why we're here, and that's it. There is no issues as far as that we're causing
Yeah.
with the community.
One last thing.
Yes, sir.
From the way I understand it and listening at the planning and zoning is that any complaints that came from neighbors had nothing to do whatsoever about the home or the residents. It seemed like almost 100%, at least 90% of the complaints were simply just parking. It was a parking problem.
And we've
okay?
resolved that. We have we have the receipt here to prove it, that we paid $2,000 or $1,700 or more to get the gravel put down. We have to put the material that they suggested, the community suggested for that, and the parking is no longer an issue. Our residents are out of the way.
Mr. Cronin.
Yes, sir.
I have two questions or I guess a comment for you and also a question for our staff. I want you to know that has nothing to me, my decision, this has nothing to do with the quality of your residents. I understand the need and I have empathy for those folks like anybody else. But we've had these same kind of problems, okay, with child care centers, assisted living facilities, and it's the same thing where you've got a lot of people in one home in the middle of single-family residences. And that's my concern, okay? And that is my whole concern, okay? Not that you can't manage those folks, not that those folks are in recovery. It's just that these type of facilities create problems in single-family residential neighborhoods, and they have in the past in the county. But that being said, the county administration, the Mike Herbert and his staff, you have the provision, the ability to grant them a permit for up to 8 residents. Have you done so, and do they meet the requirements for that currently?
When this first came before staff, we outlined all the options, and one of the options was to bring it in conformity, no more than 3 unrelated individuals, apply for a group home permit for up to 8 residents, and follow all of those standards, including sprinklers if those would be required, or apply for this conditional use permit. So the applicant chose among those options for the third, for the conditional use permit.
But let's just take it a step further than that. Let's just say that it was going to be 8 residents, okay? Would this meet that criteria for approval by the Director of Community Development?
It would with building code changes. I'm not building code changes, but changes to the building itself, modifications to the building interior. They'd have to turn in a floor plan. They'd have to show that they're not more than X number of feet from the nearest other group home, which they're not. They're not within that distance.
So should the council reject the CUP approval, this CUP, okay? It's highly likely that the Director of Administration would approve it for 8 residents, up to 8 residents,
They
right?
could apply for up to 8 residents.
Okay.
That's true, if this were not approved.
That's what I want to know. Thank you.
One last
Yes, sir.
thing. I think that one of the things we're overlooking here is the sprinkler issue. That's not going to be cheap, okay, in order for you guys to even meet that requirement. Is that correct?
Yes, and we've already the fire marshal, assistant marshal has already come to the house. He loved it. He said that he honestly we didn't have to do much. We were already meeting all the codes except for the sprinkler. And he said that we told them that we wanted to fundraise for it. He was okay with that, and was willing to give us time to do that. He also was going to help us in finding different places that will work financially with us for that sprinkler system. So that is already in process. We've already completed their application. They have already agreed that we meet their codes, and that we just have to work on getting that sprinkler system processed. And we said that we are willing to fundraise, and we have a lot of people who donate. And he is more than willing to work with us because he also knows that we're not-for-profit and that takes time to put a system like that into place.
Is a sprinkler required for 8?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
So,
Any other questions? So I have a quick question. How long does a resident typically, because you said you're an accredited with the national organization?
Yes, sir.
NARR, is that what you said?
NARR, yes, sir.
Which is National Association of,
Recovery Residencies.
thank you. So how long does a resident typically stay with you?
Well, I have residents now that have been with us for a year. So we recommend 6 months, but they can stay longer. We don't have very high turnover in that house. So there's people stay, when they come to stay for a little bit.
I assume there's a plan that
Oh,
your
yeah,
residents
treatment
would be
plan.
on, so you have a goal, like I do for my children, to get them out of the house eventually.
Good luck with that.
You're probably doing better than I am at this point, but, sorry, didn't mean to bring personal stuff
No,
into
it's
this.
the truth.
But, so the idea is that a resident would be there for ideally 6 to 18 months?
So we
Is
have a
that-
phase-up system.
Okay.
So our phase-up system includes where you have to meet a certain amount of meetings. We recently changed it where they now have to do 90 meetings in 90 days. But they have to have a sponsor within the first 30 days. They have to complete their chores and no infractions. An infraction is more like not making your bed, not doing the dishes, not going meeting the meetings, things like that, just to help bring them to that. Once they move on, they complete those things. That includes a curfew, 7 p.m. curfew. They move to phase 2. And that the curfew gets a little bit later. We try to give them a little bit more freedom, meetings, sponsor. We call the sponsor to make sure that they are actually doing step work and working on something with their sponsor. Again, they move to phase 3. At that point, they phase out of our program. They still live with us, but that means they've created criteria. But at this point, we're now working on what is your next steps?
Okay.
What about saving for an apartment? Are you already acquired a vehicle, you've done that, so what's the next step here? Where are you at in your job, family? We talk about, getting them back with their kids, wife, parents, those types of things, where we're trying to mend those things. So when they get on their own, they're stable, they're doing well, and successful members of society.
Okay.
So absolutely.
How many properties like this do you own or operate? Not own, but operate?
So we currently have 3
Okay.
in operation.
Are they all in St. Charles County?
We have one in St. Louis County and another one in St. Peters. So
Okay.
St. Charles
All
County,
right.
yes.
Okay. Any other questions right now? With that, I'd invite you to have a seat. Yes, do you want to say something?
I'm her husband, her.
Come on up.
Just want to clarify the parking.
I'm sorry.
Gary Jones,
Do you solemnly swear that you will tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do. All right. I'm Derek Jones, Cameo's husband and co-founder of LIB, sorry.
Thanks.
And just wanted to bring some clarity of the parking situation because I've been kind of managing it. So we brought in gravel. It was kind of late because we had that downpour earlier this month or last month, and it was hard to get the guys to come in and do the work. So what we did was we shaved down a tree in our back area, and now we can accommodate 4 cars in the back. And if you look on the long side of the house, you can put about 2 or 3 more there, a total of 8, which will keep it 20 feet from the road, which is what we were instructed to do. So now, It hasn't been that way. Yes, we've been seeing the pictures coming in and stuff like that as of lately because we've been trying to rotate a schedule. Certain things we need around back because there's not a lot of lighting and we don't want anyone to drive off the hill. So I'm bringing in things like different reflectors and different lighting that we're going to add to kind of brighten it up in the back. So I'm looking hopefully by the end of this week to have that done so that we can shift the parking to the back. I drive by at night. It has looked a lot better. We are 20 feet away from the main road because, yes, since our last hearing, the ambulance came out. We had one of our staff who's no longer with us who had to leave because she had a stroke while working. But it did block the way, the driveway, it did block it. So we understand the importance of having that access so that the ambulance or EVS, whoever, can pull down that driveway. So we're working. It has been challenging, and we've also, 2 people have gone since then. I think we were at about 11 or 12 since the last hearing. 2 people have gone, and we have not filled those beds just to kind of get an idea on what really needs to be here to keep the parking off the road and to accommodate the space.
Okay. Any other questions?
Yes.
Okay.
What are your plans on contributing to the maintenance of the road?
Yes,
Since
absolutely.
You have more people than most
Yeah.
of the residents that are there.
Yes.
You haven't done anything for a whole year, so.
Absolutely. And that's our fault. We do try to make it our goal to introduce ourselves to the neighbors close to us. This is why we're here, because our director introduced himself to a neighbor and said, hey, my name is such and such. I'm the director. We have a recovery home here. If you have any concerns, here's my card. Here's my number. Give us a call. At that point, we noticed that there are potholes that developed in the road. Yes, we probably should have did a better job reaching out to the community to offer our assistance, and that's what we'll do going forward. The way we brought in gravel here, I will bring in gravel to fix the roads if we have to, and we have the guys who we require community service once a month anyway. We can do the gravel ourselves. We do our job to upkeep the yard and the maintenance of the yard. We don't let the grass grow out wild. There's no hanging out or loitering on the property. And if that's what it takes for us to save lives, to be more active and do our part to help keep the street and hit Placid Drive together, we'll do it. Whatever we need to do.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, the maintenance of the road at the planning and zoning never did come up. None of the neighbors mentioned anything about that. So I'm not even sure these folks were aware that they were.
Yeah,
going to
it
keep
is some issues. There are. The road needs some leveling, so yes,
I think
we
what
can.
Mr. Hollander was
Yeah.
making the point of
Oh, I'm
is
sorry. Yeah.
that since planning and zoning, not meaning to put words in your mouth, but the way I understand what you said, at the planning and zoning meeting, the neighbors didn't bring up an issue of working on the road. So I think, Mr. White, to your question, I don't think it was brought to their attention that they were responsible for working on the road, because typically I don't work on my road in front of my house.
But
So-
you don't have a private street.
But if you didn't know that you were supposed to be responsible for that, you may think that it's taken care of as part of the community fees. I don't know that. I'm just throwing that out there.
And with the additional cars, we understand. That's why we're here saying
We're willing to do
we're
whatever.
willing to do whatever we can to help keep Placid Drive clean and good.
And we actually have a maintenance, we have a guy that lawn care that comes during the summer once or twice or a couple times a month to actually take care of the yard. So we
Okay,
definitely do our part with that.
Great.
Willing to do whatever.
well, you're welcome to have a seat. We'll bring you back up in
Thank
a
you.
little bit later. For right now, we're going to open up the public comments. So any individual supporting or opposing the application is now invited to share their comments with the council. The council staff will call you forward one at a time. Each speaker who has submitted a speaker card will get to have their comments. Upon the conclusion of the individual comments, please remain at the podium for any follow-up questions from council staff or the applicant. We encourage you to keep your comments to 3 minutes if possible. And should another speaker have shared the same information that you feel has already been shared, then just say ditto. The record will reflect that you have the same concerns or opinion, and we will move forward from there. So with that, our first speaker is
Jonathan Fackler.
Jonathan, come on up. By the way, when you come up and speak, you will be sworn in.
Sure.
Do you solemnly swear that you will tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Go ahead.
My name's Jonathan Fackler, and Cameo and Derek may have mentioned, or they did mention, a house manager, and that's my role with LIV Sober Living. I've lived there since it opened. I'll address a couple of things. They're really, I mean, this particular sober living environment, and I've been in a couple, is far and away the best that I've ever come across. She mentioned the phase-up system, the house rules. You know, we have residents that are anywhere from early 20s to myself, I'm 56. We've got a gentleman that's 65. You know, some of the younger guys, they may not know how to take care of themselves. You know what I mean? So the purpose of the house is to, number one, bridge that gap between coming out of rehab and going right back to the people that you used to be around, which isn't a good thing. Gives you a chance to get your feet under you, get a solid base of recovery, start putting your life back together, and then being able to move out. We were just talking last night at our house meeting. A couple of guys said, you know, when are we going to know, you know, when do I know if I'm ready to move out? And that's a hard question because we don't want to become dependent on someplace just because it's a safe environment. That's not good for our progression. So it's a really great facility. There are 5 bedrooms. The fire marshal mentioned when he was there that we're not on top of each other. There's plenty of room for 10 people. There's plenty of room for 12, honestly. The parking situation has been a big headache for the owners, for me as the house manager, because I have to go out and tell people to move their cars, do this, do that. But my role is to make sure that the guys are doing their chores, they're following the rules, what they need to be doing. You know, and make sure that our house is quiet, that it stays quiet. I'm going to preempt the neighbor probably because about a week after the last hearing with planning and zoning, you decided to go out and use spray paint and mark the survey marks. And some of our cars were fairly close, and some of the residents were like, hey, what's going on? So I went out, I diffused the situation. He and I had a good talk. I think a lot of the opposition has to do with misunderstanding or ignorance, not ignorance like in, you know, but just not knowing the nature of addiction and what role this house plays and how important it is. I understand the concerns of having a group home in a single-family neighborhood. I'd welcome anybody to come in and take a look. Our house is cleaner on a dirty day than it is than anybody else's. We take great pride in keeping that clean. I don't know. I still don't understand why we're here. I mean, I do, but we were there for 10 months. Our director, out of the goodness of his heart, went over and introduced himself to the neighbor to let him know what we do. Same thing he did with the neighbors on the other side that are fully supportive. Being a good neighbor, and that's what we want to do. And, you know, up until then, nobody knew what we were. Nobody willfully tried to sneak under the radar or anything. It was simply a case of we didn't know we had to with this number of residents. And to your point, Mr. Hollander, you're absolutely right. Any comments that came up in the planning and zoning that had to do with road improvements or road upkeep, when I had a talk with Mr. Rice, he said, well, you know, talk is cheap. And I said, well, I'm sure our owners will open up their wallet as soon as you do. Nobody said anything to us about, is there a fund that's set up to maintain the road? If there isn't, there should be. So, I don't know, I'd be happy to answer any questions you have. I've kind of jumped all around. And
It's okay. Does anybody have questions? All right.
All right,
Thank you
thanks.
very much. Next speaker.
Scott Hartman.
Do you solemnly swear that you will tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I'm Scott Hartman. I'm the recovery director for LIV, and I was here for the last meeting as well. And I can tell you, if it was not for me going into a sober living home back in the end of 2016, I wouldn't be standing here today. I would have been dead. If there would have been neighbors around that knew where I was at and judged me, I probably would have ran because I was beat down, broken, lost, and didn't have a clue, wanting to die. Going into a sober living home is what saved my life. It showed me structure. It showed me how to make a bed, how to cook, how to get a job, how to get a network of people, because I had to get rid of everybody from my past. So I had to learn how to be a productive member of society. And if it was not for the rules in a sober living house, going to meetings, having a sponsor, the whole 9 yards, I wouldn't be here. Now, I was over at Placid today, and I walk in and there's one guy that they call the chef, and he's cooking for the whole house. Cooking for the whole house. They're laughing and joking, and I'm 10 minutes away from there. And I've never seen a problem. What I see is guys that want to get their life back. I see guys like me that didn't know how to get their life back. I didn't have a clue. If it didn't involve getting a drink or putting a needle in my arm, I didn't know how to live. Sober living, a structure of sober living is what is saving lives. But then when you get people, and this is the stigma, and this is society, you get people that don't have the knowledge of what truly goes into a sober living house is going to judge. Oh, that's an addict. He doesn't deserve to be here. She's an addict. She doesn't deserve that because of some of the choices that we made. And that's not right. And at the last meeting, I heard people say, well, I'm worried about my property value. I'm worried about my property value. How dare can anybody say, put property value in a human life? There's no comparison. There's none. And I'm sorry for that, but a human life is more than any property out there. And these guys are the most respectful guys I've ever seen in my life coming out of treatment. It's amazing to see what these guys are doing. And sober living will also teach you to deal with so many different types of characters. So when we leave that sober living house and go out there and face life, whether it be a job, whether it be at a restaurant, no matter what, you're going to know how to deal with somebody that's going to rub you the wrong way. And it's going to happen because we're human and we do not get along with, you can't get along with everybody. And the fact that they were there 10 months before anybody knew, I mean, that speaks volumes. And I know a lot of sober living houses, and they're all, you have to go to so many meetings a week if you're working and so many if you're not. And you got to call your sponsor. And let me tell you something. I've been on the phone with some of these guys' sponsors to make sure they're working a program, and if they're not, I'm going to find out why. What can I do to help you to get better? Because what we do, like most other sober living homes, we want them to be good, that when they walk out that door, they don't have to pick up a drink or a drug when life hits you, because it's going to hit. So that's the purpose. We train them to give them the tools, because that's what somebody did for me, and that's what people did to so many other people in sober living. Because if it wasn't for sober living and I went back to where I was using, I would have been dead. And I just celebrated 51 months clean a couple months ago, and it's because sober living gave me that structure to start. And the parking, it was on point today. It was on point. The only reason why somebody was close to the road is because I didn't pull all the way in. But I wasn't there long enough. I was there just to go in and check on the guys. They even asked me to sit down and eat, and then I tell you what that guy was cooking, he's a chef, and he cooks for the whole house. How many people do you know, strangers, would cook for a whole house and he does it every day? And the last meeting I went to, there was a gentleman back here that said that the list that these guys have to do is unachievable. That's the biggest lie I've ever seen in my life. You know why? Because I had to do that same list. So when I go in and I talk to the guys, or they don't have to, I don't ask them to do anything that I haven't done myself. But I learned that because of the sober living house. And I learned that because I didn't have neighbors coming at me at all sides. Well, you're a dope fiend or you're a junkie, you need to get out of here. When you're in a sober living house, you don't need that. You don't need that. What you need to do is focus on your recovery. You feel bad about yourself enough as it is. So if you got neighbors coming at you saying, you don't deserve this, and you already feel inside that you don't deserve to be happy anyway. I mean, that's just life.
Okay.
So, thank you so much, I appreciate
Thanks.
it.
Anybody have any questions for Scott?
Yeah, just one point, at this point, and, again, having, heard you folks at Planning and Zoning did a great job, the issue here really is not how well the facility is run and how valuable the facility is to the people that are using it. The real issue here is just the nuts and bolts of our ordinances.
Right.
Okay, and, and the parking and the number of people and what community development allows. So I think that we all here would agree that there are a need for these kind of facilities and that you guys probably do a great job, but we have to look at it in the other way also.
Right,
Okay?
well, I apologize.
No, that's fine.
It's okay.
No, that's,
And again, the gentleman that bought it, they were under the impression that he took care of all that.
Right.
Sure.
So,
Congratulations on your 51 months.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming. Next speaker, please.
Brandy Schmidt.
Do you solemnly swear that you will tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do. Hi there.
Hi.
My name is Brandy Schmidt. I am a owner of a home in the residence. I also own a home in Newtown. I also am a small business owner, the Mocktail Lounge, which is the first sober lounge in Missouri, which is on Main Street, if you haven't been. I am here in support of the Live House. Over the past several decades, various groups have tried to limit and prohibit the use of sober living homes in good neighborhoods. And these attempts have been stopped by the courts. So one of the biggest paramount decisions that had protecting the rights of the people in recovery was made by the United States Supreme Court in May 1995 in the case of Edmonds, Washington versus Oxford House, Inc., U.S. 725, 1995. In this case, the Supreme Court ruled in a 6-3 decision that recovering alcoholics and drug addicts were a protected class under the handicap provision of the Federal Fair Housing Act amendments of 1988. Sober homes are protected by the Americans with Disabilities and Fair Housing Acts, and the house is considered a family unit. I wonder if we would be having this conversation today if this was a recovery home for cancer patients. And do each of us regulate our home in a strict a way as much as these sober living homes are run, with the rules, the jobs, the random drug test, the failing of resulting in immediate removal of the home? Who here can pass a drug test? I can, because I have 4 years of sobriety. I am a grateful, recovering alcoholic and a pillar in this community. These sober homes are saving lives. They are not hurting neighbors. If I wanted to get a dog, I don't have to ask my neighbors, can I get a dog? That's not their business. If I want to park a car and I have the space to park the car, and it's within zoning, and they put gravel down, I can park the car there. I own a home where I can't park an RV, and I know I can't. It's part of the rules. So I don't. Okay? Follow rules. Sober people are making a decision to better themselves and their lives, and the people around them, the neighbors. Some people cannot go back to that situation they left, their home life, in order to protect their sobriety and ultimately their lives. This is a family of like-minded individuals, all there to live in peace and harmony with another. I am disgusted with the lack of compassion and care shown for our fellow neighbors. Shame on those who are judging and convicting another as they try to better themselves. This petition has been brought forward because of lack of communication and ignorance. If we could all understand and accept each other, what a better world we would live in. Maybe instead of fighting to remove a sober home, living home, we unite to fight addiction and help those who are working their sobriety. Please remember one thing. You can hate the addict all you want, but you will never hate them as much as they have hated themselves. May God bless you all. And as it is written, love thy neighbor. Thank you.
Hang on a second. Does anyone have any questions? All right, thank you. Next speaker.
Mark Rice.
Do you solemnly swear that you will tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do. First of all, I'd like to say that none of these neighbors, I live right next to this house, none of these neighbors have anything against a recovery home. We all have compassion for these people. They're making it sound like we don't like the people that are there. We think there's a place for those houses, but not in a residential neighborhood. They need to find some other place to have their peace. That's not the place to do it. They try to make it sound like we hate them. We don't hate anybody. And we are concerned about our property values. Because I bought the house, I live in 18 right next to them. I look over to the left, they're dumping gravel in the backyard on grass. That's the way they're making a parking lot. It looks like a car lot when I walk in my backyard now. And I have had confrontations with people at that house. I live right next door. I was out putting metal stakes in place of wooden stakes because they keep knocking them over, and I want to know where the property line is. That's the only reason I was there, and I painted them with orange paint. I had somebody come out and confront me, and it was settled down, but I thought the guy was going to really do something. He was, are you in or you out? Are you in or you're just acting nutty? And I don't want to live next to that. It can happen. These people go in and out of there. Right now, they're all stable. But what about the next guy, or the next guy, or the next guy? I lost my stepson 3 years ago from an overdose. We had him in and out of rehab. I understand the whole thing. We've had the police at the house. We've had in and out of rehab. So we slept with one eye open. My wife won't even go there. She won't even, because of that reason. So I've been through it. I'm not naive like they think we are, like they think I am, because I'm not. I had no idea when I bought the property. Now, they're supposed to inform everybody within 1,000 feet. They say they walk out and shake hands or whatever. The lady 2 doors down the other way would not get involved with this because she's afraid that somebody would retaliate. She's an older lady. What's that tell you? She's scared. She's not going to come in here. But there's really nothing wrong with these people. We just don't think the residential area is the place for it. As far as zoning, can you dump gravel in your backyard and say, okay, I'm gonna park cars on it? Is that, I don't know. Is that, can you do that? Because I can fill my backyard with gravel too.
You can drop gravel anywhere you want.
You can't.
There's no permit, yeah.
So it doesn't have to be any kind of chip seal, which I heard it had to be?
It really kind of depends on your homeowners association and the rules that you
Well, we
set up
don't
in the
have
homeowners.
one.
Then, yeah.
So anything goes, basically? And they've stated that they would help with the road. They know they've got all these cars going in and out that are extra cars. You know, they've got, what, 8, 10 cars there? So every day when they go to work and they come back, they beat this road down. It's just a one-lane gravel road. So if you divide it out by the people that live there, you know, if they got 10 people living there and I got one, you know, they should be paying to fix the road. Because I'm only going out once or twice a day. They got 10 of them doing that, so you do the math.
Okay.
I got a
I have a
question.
question for you, too.
Let's start with Mr. Brazel and then Mr. Cronin. Mr. Brazel
If
first.
there were 8 folks living in that house, would it still be a problem?
That's 16 in and outs. Yeah, it's a problem. And the thing is, they had a violation for parking on the road. They turned around and did it again. They moved in there under the radar. They're saying they didn't. They did. They know how to operate homes. They've done it before. It's not new to them. You know, they come in with this sympathy card, and I'm just not buying it. Just not buying it.
Mr. Cronin.
I want to make it real clear that we've had just as contentious arguments about group homes when it involves childcare in residential neighborhoods, okay? With people wanting to drop their kids off for the day while they go to work. So I don't think the argument about anything having to do with recovery is valid at all, because
not.
we've been on this council for, most of us, for a lot of years, and I've seen just as much contention about locating a daycare, for instance, in a residential subdivision.
This is possibly 12 grown men.
But
I
my,
mean, come on.
But my question to you would be, is there a number of folks at that house, if it was regulated tightly like these folks are saying they do, and county code enforcement was there to make sure that things were done correctly?
Well, that's another-
Is there a particular level where you think you and your neighbors could facilitate this home? Okay?
Do I think? No, because what bothers me is the rotation of people. You're always getting a new personality in there, and they say, oh, they stay for 6 months. Some of them only stay for 3, some of them maybe a week. I don't know. I mean, right now, it's real stable, but who knows when the next guy comes in? Who knows?
Okay. Any other questions?
Where's one question? You are the next door neighbor.
I'm the next door neighbor, right.
On one side, okay.
Yeah, their house here, mine's right there.
Yeah, okay, I realize it. You know, it's been talked about in the planning and zoning and again this evening about, you know, the length of time that went by before there was realization that this was being operated as a group home. So my question is, did you notice this like the first couple of weeks that there were more cars?
Yeah,
Or did
well,
it take a couple of
I
months?
was told,
I'm just
I was
asking.
told that it was a couple of guys that were renting to some people. That's what I was told. I didn't know. They didn't send out any information when they first moved in there,
Right.
because they didn't want people to know. There's no other reason why they didn't.
Thank you.
All right.
They operate other homes, they know. They're acting like they don't, but they know.
All right, thank you. Next speaker.
Tracy Ray.
Do you solemnly swear that you will tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Hi, I'm Tracy Ray. I live 2 doors down from the home at 19. And I am in opposition to the home. I brought a petition that was signed by 185 people in opposition to this permit. I appreciate your clarifications that no one is disagreeing with the importance of sober living homes. However, as Mr. Cronin said, you could have this issue with any type of business. And it goes beyond the issue of parking. As Mark just said, you have the in and outs, the additional traffic, so getting blocked in. And also, my husband and I just moved into this house a year ago. And it's true, we didn't know what was going on. However, the damage is clear, all the cars was clear, we just weren't really sure what was going on. We weren't clear what the situation was, why the conditions were kind of off and deteriorating. But we moved to this house to be in a peaceful, safe, quiet area. We want to have a family, and I want to be able to let my kids go and play and not have to worry about traffic, cars, strangers. And with the turnover of people, it's just a bit too unknown to me, and it's sad to me that I'm not really so sure if I would feel comfortable having a family where we are if this were to stay. So, any questions?
Any questions?
Yes.
Mr.
Would
White?
you felt more comfortable if they would have came to you in the beginning and told you what was going on?
Perhaps, however, if I had known, maybe we wouldn't have moved in there to begin with.
All right. Are you compelled by their story? Do you feel selfish that you feel the way you do?
No, because of the way they set things up.
Okay.
So you have a petition of 185 signatures?
Yes.
So I'm looking at the road down Placid Drive. Doesn't look like there's 185 people who live on that road.
No, that's true. However, we've spoken with everyone on the street. I know there's one woman Mark mentioned who didn't really want to say either way her position. And then there is one neighbor who is okay with it, and everyone else is opposed strongly, especially those of us who have to drive past the house. We are all very opposed.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Did you, or maybe let me ask Robert. Robert, how many people live within that location within 1,000 feet? Do you know how many residents?
No, I can find that information.
Well, if I'm correct, there's 7 homes that come down that drive. Is that correct?
No, my point is.
No, how many? 9 homes, sorry. Go ahead.
If she got 185 signatures, at what point does it become a remonstrance?
You don't do a remonstrance on.
You don't do them on?
Not under conditional use
Not on
permit,
conditional
only
use permits.
rezonings.
Oh, okay.
You can't use a remonstrance on a CUP unless there's a rezoning. If it's a rezoning, then you could have a remonstrance. If that's correct.
Yes.
From our attorney there.
We had a bit of a concern on that because from an email from my neighbor, Mark Detmer, emailed someone on the council staff and found out that the permit would be indefinite. So to me, it's almost like a rezoning anyway.
It's not a rezoning, though. Rezoning is where you change the classification of the property. So you're not doing that. You're just allowing this conditional use on that particular piece of property. And yes, once it's there, it's there. So you can have that conditional use on that piece of property.
Is it with the property, Mike, or is it with the ownership?
It's with the property. So, all right, Tracy, thank you.
Thank you.
Next speaker.
Alex Ray.
I'm going to go out on a limb, Alex, and say you're related to Tracy.
That's a good guess.
Do you solemnly swear that you will tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do. Okay, so I don't want to rehash what Mark and Tracy have already said. There was a question about, would the situation be different if they had been more forthcoming and more cooperative and wanting to integrate into the neighborhood? She did point out that, yeah, if we had known that there was a group home there, would we have bought the property? I probably wouldn't have paid what I paid for it. And so, and then there's also the issue with, everyone's hung up on the parking, but the road maintenance is really a big thing. And like we were saying, there's 9 houses, and if you don't count the residents at the group home, there's about 17 residents and about 14 cars. And if you're talking about adding 10 cars, you go from 14 to 24 cars. That's like a 40% increase in traffic. And us, the permanent residents, the property owners, that burden falls on us to maintain that. And I know I'm almost certain that at the planning and zoning meeting, there was mention of, since it's a private road, the residents have to pay for it, and since then, both before the planning and zoning and after, I haven't received any phone calls, no one's knocked on my door and shook my hand and said, hey, let's work this thing out, what can we do to help and help integrate into the neighborhood? And so it seems like sort of a digging in of the heels. In terms of, what would happen if this was denied and they all had to move out, in the application, it references they follow Oxford House standards. And so I went to the Oxford House website, and they have a directory of all of their houses that are in Missouri. There's 44 group homes in Missouri operated just by Oxford alone, not to mention any other organizations. There's 44 of them. The majority of them are male houses. And this is a printout of the directory right here from about a week ago. And, there's plenty of vacancies. So the argument that, they would be homeless were this permit denied is, it's false, I think. And as I guess as a final point, this has been mentioned 2 or 3 times, but it's not that we don't like the people that are living in the house. It's, like Mr. Cronin said, if this was a daycare, a bed and breakfast, any kind of commercial business, profit or nonprofit, that property is zoned as single residential for a reason. And, we do need these like sober living houses, it benefits society, but, we need grocery stores and gas stations, and you can't just go building a gas station in the middle of a residential neighborhood. And, I think having all of the, testimonies, so to speak, from residents of other houses and whatnot, I don't think that should really affect the outcome, because we're really talking about a zoning issue and the fact that structurally Placid Drive is not built to accommodate a commercial business. And that's kind of all I had. Does anyone have any questions?
Any questions? Seeing none? Oh, sorry, Mr. White?
How do you maintain the road? Do you have you're not organized or anything, just go around and collect money to maintain the road?
So we bought our house on April 2nd of last year, and as I understand it, in talking with our other neighbors in the past weeks, the guy who lived there before me, he would go around and collect donations from the other houses. And I guess, he would rent like a Bobcat or something, get like a dump truck of gravel and just kind of do it himself. And so, yeah, we don't have like a road agreement. We don't have a homeowners association. So in a way, you could say it's voluntary, but the other residents have to drive on that road too. And if they own the property and they live there permanently, they're more invested in the quality of the road. And so with, a revolving door of, 8, 10, 12 people, they're only there for 6 to 12 months. They're not invested in the road, and they're certainly not invested in, call it the curb appeal of the house. I think in the letter we sent, there was, before and after pictures of when they had moved in, and it's night and day. And so, I do a lot of work to keep the front of my house looking nice, and, there is a lot of money and time and work that has to go into maintaining the road, and so, they have no incentive, in other words, is the way I see it.
Where's your house, approximately this property?
So I'm at 19, it's...
2 doors down?
Yeah, about 150 feet, I'd say.
Okay. 2 doors down, that would be towards the south or
yeah.
Towards the end of the street, yeah?
Yes.
Okay. Second house from the end of the road.
It looks like the road kind of dead ends almost in front of your house.
Yeah, it does. My other neighbor at 20 Placid, his house is pretty new. I think he built it in the last 4 or 5 years. And that road did end in front of my property until fairly recently. And yeah, it's a dead-end road. There's no
Right.
throughput.
Okay. Thank you. Next
Thank you.
speaker, please.
Jessica Detmer.
I believe Jessica does end at the end of the road.
I do, yes.
Do you solemnly swear that you will tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do, yes, thank you. Hi, I'm Jessica Detmer. I live at 20 Placid. My husband and I have lived there since 2016, so as some people like to say, we're not Johnny-come-latelys to the neighborhood. I will say, the way that the house manager just reacted to Mark Rice walking back after he spoke, I know I myself am a hothead and have a way with four-letter words, but sitting in this courtroom, I don't think that was appropriate, and if he leads by example, leaves a lot of cause for concern. I'm going to shift from my original presentation of what I was going to say because I'm not sure why the people that are in opposition to the conditional use permit, like myself, are having fingers pointed at us saying that we are judging these residents. I have never once called anyone at this home a derogatory name. I have plenty of family and friends that have been affected by this themselves. I have cousins that are still going through this. I have heard, as we stood here, Derek say when they last came that they had 11 to 12 people. Cameron at the last meeting said they had 10 people. There's a lot of information that seems to be conflicting here. It was first the NAR's representative's fault that they didn't know about the occupational permit. It was then the owner of the home, the real estate's agent's fault. But Cameron's had a background in this for a while. Or Cameo, I'm so sorry, I did not mean to call you Cameo. Cameo's had a background in this for quite a while. Why is it not common sense to look into what the local laws and ordinances are? If these many neighbors can find this many issue with this quickly, it's not hidden information. Even after the last meeting, the residents were continuing to park up at the top of the street after they were sat here and heard that they were no longer allowed to do that. I have had a personal issue accessing my house during the snowstorm. A resident called a tow truck to go get a hamburger. I was trying to go home to work. I am a litigation paralegal for a plaintiff's side asbestos litigation firm. I sat there and waited for about 30 minutes. Couldn't access my house because it's a one-lane road in a snowstorm. Until I fought with the tow truck driver, he forced me to back up and I got stuck. After I screamed at the resident that was standing out there watching me be stuck and dig myself out with my arms, they did come help. But it would have never happened had a sound decision been made and someone not left. So if someone needs a hamburger or if someone has an overdose, is that more important than the next time my husband has a seizure? Do we know if they could not look into the local laws and ordinances if they carried the proper insurance to cover if something would happen or cover if something would happen to one of their residents? This street cannot handle the traffic of 10, 15 residents. It's not just the residents, it's their staff that also comes and goes daily. We, the people, especially at 18, 19, and 20, have had multiple times where we've been blocked by ambulances in full hazmat suits or police cars and not been able to get down the street. Just because we are not suffering from an addiction, we don't have the right to the same access where we live. And it is true that this may affect our property values, and I think that is a valid concern. No one is saying anyone's life is not important. Everyone's is, no matter who you are. But in reality, we do all have to look out for ourselves and our futures as well. And so if we are on a street where people are not wanting to buy new homes and it's just getting worse and deteriorating, it is a valid concern, especially when the cars, for some reason, seem to come down and slowly circle past their house, which is then causing further stress on our end of the street. So I'm not sure why that's necessary, but it doesn't, any of it seem in the best interest of the neighbors.
Okay. Any questions? All right, thank you. Next speaker?
Mark Detmer.
Do you solemnly swear that you will tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Hey, do me a favor before we start, okay? I get,
I'll keep it brief.
Got it.
I actually got a few little added things to that. Obviously, everything my wife just said, I ditto to that.
okay.
But
you.
I did do a little bit of research to find out what it would take to make the road accessible for the amount of traffic this would do. To make it a double-lane road, concrete, put a turnaround down at the end, so fire trucks come down, they have room to turn around. It's a 900-foot road. Figured the road was going to be 26 foot wide. We're talking around $133,000. Who's going to pay for that? It's not going to be me. If we drive it up by all the residents, that's still $15,000 a piece. Why should we pay for that kind of a thing when it's mainly used for one household? Also, last fall, I did pay. I was the one that paid to maintain that road. I paid $1,000 to have that maintained. That used to last us about 2 years. It lasted us about 3 weeks this time, and I'm not putting more money to it until someone else does. Like they said, they did do some work on the backyard last week. They had gravel there. They had workers there doing gravel. They did not fill one pothole on the street at that time. If they were concerned about the neighborhood, I would have thought they would have filled a couple potholes, especially the two giant ones right in front of their house. I think that's all I got. I think everything else has kind of been stated. Any questions?
Seeing none, thank you.
Thank you.
Next speaker.
Brandy Maple.
Do you solemnly swear that you will tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do. My name is Brandy Maple. I have 19 months of sobriety. Excuse me if I get emotional, but before this... That helps my emotionalness.
I was clicking on something that's attached to the agenda. I'm not like surfing the net here.
I wear a size 8 if you're on Amazon.
Sorry, back to your point.
I have 19 months of sobriety. Before this, I was married to my high school sweetheart for 21 years. I raised 4 boys. One is a United States Marine. One's a Spire guy. He's been to most of your houses to put the gas in. I have another one who is works for Ameren UE, make sure that everybody's got lights. And I have another one's a ski instructor, and only the rich people are going to see him. Before I was an addict, I was a stay-at-home mom. I was a Sunday school teacher, and I was good at it. My husband came home and asked for a divorce. I had one join the Marines, one left to be a ski instructor, one graduated high school, and one got married and started a family, and I didn't know how to function. I was a 43-year-old woman who did not know how to function, not going to soccer practice. So I started drinking so I could sleep. I became an addict. I got into another relationship. He was a drug addict. I was an alcoholic. I soon became a drug addict right alongside of him. When I left him, I had to go into a domestic violence shelter because I had a broken eye socket, 3 broken ribs, and I was losing the sight in my left eye. I then went into rehab, And I now have 19 months sober, and I no longer have to hide from him. I had to live in hiding from him. I lost my kids because they didn't want anything to do with me. They were grown-ups, that was their decision. They wouldn't want anything to do with their mom, who was a drunk. This past Easter, I spent with all of my children. We had the best time. I got to spend the night, sleep in bed with my grandson, and I'm rebuilding my family because I live in sober living. Because somebody went out and bought a house and said, I'm going to open it for this young lady, or kind of young. I now know how to function, not being just, I can just be Brandy. And now I know that that's okay to just be Brandy, and I don't have to do it. I can sleep now without alcohol. I can function now without alcohol. And I was not able to do that until somebody came along, put their arm around me and said, okay, let me show you how to do this. I live in the community, and if it was not for that home, I don't know where I would be today. I would probably have went back to that man who was ultimately going to kill me if I didn't kill myself. I did try to kill myself 3 times before I moved in there, before I got sober. Thank God for sober living, because I am here to tell you today I'm not smart enough to kill myself, thank God. And I am sober 19 months, and I have my family back, I have my life back. I'm in the process of buying a new vehicle. I am in the process of buying a home. When I go buy a home, and I get my own home, I am not going to go to my neighbors and ask them if they are sober. I'm not going to go to my neighbors when I'm searching out a home and ask them if they've ever had an addiction, or if there was, or how's their gravel look? I'm worried about me and my home. And I don't think that I have several neighbors where I live in the community. I have no idea if they're sober or not, but they know that I am. And that's all I've got.
All right, any questions? Thank you.
Tiffany Abbott.
Do you solemnly swear that you will tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Well, thank you. First of all, I want to thank everybody for just mainly having the conversation. We need to concentrate on the fact that we are here for a resolution, and that we need to have understanding of what the rules are and what needs to be done for the community. And the only point that I want to make is if you have 12 teenagers that live in a home and you're fortunate enough to give them all vehicles, then how does that fall in the spectrum of life? How does that fall in the ordinances? And that's basically all this is about. I can talk forever about sober living and how gracious I am, but we as people, thank God that we have open forums where we can sit down and come together for simply a resolution and not judging how anybody's living. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Any questions?
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's all right, we're all good. Thank you. Next speaker.
Emily St. Clair.
Do you solemnly swear that you will tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do. Hello.
Hello.
My name is Emily St. Clair. I have lived in a women's Oxford house for about 17 months now. I am the president of an all-women's Oxford house. Living in an Oxford house, you become part of a family. I have the strongest connections with these women. They have saved my life. My main concern is where are these men going to go? They are people just like you. What if your daughter or son was in active addiction? They decided to get their life together. They wanted to live in a good area around good people. They started to build their foundation and it was ripped from them. I am absolutely terrified for these men. What is supposed to happen to them? Someone had mentioned that there are 44 Oxford houses. I know 3 that are in this district that are in St. Charles. I'm sorry, 2, because one of the house that I live in is the women's, and then we have 2 other men's houses. And right now, they currently have 4 openings. We meet with them once a month, and that's only 3 of the men. Where are they supposed to go? Kind of what Tiffany said, I feel like there should be a resolution. You know, I understand the other neighbors' concerns, but when it comes down to it, these are people's lives. People's lives are at risk with this. It is life or death for us. Living in an Oxford house, one of our biggest rules is we leave the house in a better condition than when it started. We enforce that. It is a big part of where our money goes and how we contribute to the home. Most of the people have pointed on most of the things that I wanted to say. That's all I have.
All right, any questions? Yes, sir.
So in the other homes you have in St. Charles, are they in similar neighborhoods?
Yes, yes. One of them is the Lynn Cove House, which is right off of Zumbel. And there is another one in Winfield, which is a good drive.
Yeah.
Are those the same? How many people are in those houses?
One of the Winfield house, I believe, is 11. I'm looking at you. 11? 11. They hold up to 11 men. And I believe the Lynn Cove is 9.
Where is the Wentzville home? Can I ask you?
The Winfield, it's Winfield.
Winfield.
No,
Winfield.
St. Peters. You say St. Peters? You have one in St. Peters, right?
Yeah, I have the Lynn Cove is St. Peter's, and then Winfield, I've only been out there a couple times because it's so far, and then COVID happened.
Okay. And the one that you have, the Lynn Cove, okay, that is definitely in a residential neighborhood, not a commercial?
100%, yes.
Okay.
And how long has it been there?
The Lynn Cove, I am not sure.
Like over 2 years? or-
Oh, yeah, at least over 5 years. And the home that I live in has been there for over 3 years.
And that's in the city of St. Peters?
Yes. It is off of Jungerman. Another big thing is anonymity in our program. Whenever you go to meetings and things, you don't discuss people's names because that is for them to disclose. I understand that people of the neighborhood feel like they should be informed, but I'm not going to go around and inform you if I have cancer or if I have a child with a disability. I mean, that's just, it doesn't, anonymity is a big thing in our program and in our lives. I understand why some people would not understand that, but if you have not lived that and you have not gone through that, then you don't understand. I truly just want a resolution out of this, and I want these men to be safe and be able to keep doing what they're doing and move forward.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next speaker.
Arnie Dienoff.
Is this our last speaker?
There's 4 after.
Okay. Mr. Dienoff, I know you're going to join us later, so do me a favor and make this as brief as possible, please.
This is an important issue, and I'm going to talk about things that haven't been talked about, so I'd like to make
at
them a
least
matter
ask.
of public
I had to
record.
know that.
I understand.
I'll swear you in.
Oh, that's right.
Do you solemnly swear that you will tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, members of the council. My name is Arnie C. A.C. Dienoff, County Public Advocate. This is a tough one. It was tough at planning and zoning. I applaud, and I talked to them after the meeting, the applicants. They're doing a notable good deed. It's a 401c3 designation. People in the community are trying to help them. I get that. But I'm not sure that this is the right environment and the right place to put this type of home. There was a lot of testimony at planning and zoning, and I didn't get across my point to planning and zoning, and I think Mr. Hollander and some of the other members didn't understand what I was trying to get at. They said that the applicant said that they do a background check on the people of the home. I have some severe concerns of safety, protections, and safety of the children of the community. Mental health conditions, are those being looked into and checked? And I brought up child predators. Now, this is alcohol or drug addiction, and I get that. But they can also have or be child predators or molesters. Now, we have 3 ways to do searches. And so I'd like you to look at a condition, if you're going to approve this, that would manage these background checks. In the St. Louis region, we have what's called REGIS. It's the Regional Law Enforcement way of getting information of driver's records, criminal background checks on people. But that only takes in a few counties, 4 or 5 counties on the Illinois side and 4 or 5 counties on the Missouri side. Then we have Mules, which is run by the Missouri Highway Patrol, and that only takes in Missouri and surrounding states. Then you have the FBI background check, which is the law enforcement, which is a nationwide database. And so I would ask that if they're doing background checks, that be one of the conditions to ensure that not only are these people legit, they don't have a criminal felony background, that they're not child predators or molesters. I think that that's very important. Why didn't we reach out to our police chief to get the call volume? Why didn't we reach out to the fire protection district to see what type of calls were there? And when you look at these type of group homes, there was a law that just was passed by our state legislature on March 1st, 2021 that goes into effect, which would be Title IX, Section 45.5.130 under the state fire marshal, which would have to approve serving for group homes of 4 to 9 people. And that was in House Bill 555 and House Bill 648 that was passed last year, signed into effect by the governor. So they have to go through that, and that's going to be another added expense. They're going to have to meet certain guidelines and certain conditions. So to diminish property values is of concern. The conditions to limit nuisances, loitering, music, throwing cigarette butts, that type of thing. I would ask that you add the following conditions if you're going to entertain passage of this by chance. That you limit the amount of residents to 8, which will be in compliance with our county codified code. That you do something about the parking to eliminate any emergency response vehicles from not gaining access to those homes, especially in the back. That you add no parking, and it's kind of going to be hard to enforce because it is a private roadway. That home, I don't believe, is ADA, Americans with Disability, compliant. So I would ask you put a condition that you make sure that the home is fully compliant, that the restrooms, the showers, and that the parking is ADA compliant with the federal law. And that you review the conditional use permit the first year and the second year so we can meet with the police chief and meet with first responders to see what type of calls, what type of instances are happening at this location. Now there's a state statute, Statute 82.461 of the revised Missouri Revised State Statutes that deals with these type of group homes. And the chairman had said that a conditional use permit, known as a CUP, that goes for the applicant, and that can be made a condition of this council. I think what the chairman is referring to is the Board of Zoning Adjustment. Those run with the land, but the CUP runs with the applicant. So if this applicant moved or sold the property, it'd be null and void. And you can make that as part of a condition. It's legal. The case law is there. I ask that you ask the county councilor. Also, there's 2 other state statutes that come in with group homes and addiction homes. State Statute 376.779, which is governed by the Department of Health and Social Services also, and Section 630.655. This is not the place, I don't believe. I believe that they need more acreage, more places to park. There needs to be some type of decorum and some type of legitimate conditions. Unfortunately, they went around the law. And I don't understand that because the applicant, as they've testified at the Planning and Zoning and testified tonight, they went through this process with the city of St. Peters off of Jungerman Road. And they also went through this in St. Louis County, which has more stringent codes than St. Charles County. So how could they not know that before, I understand somebody bought the property. How could they not know, after going through 2 other applications, that they had to go through this procedure? And this state law, 82.461, mandates that you have to notify the neighbors before granting a conditional use permit for a group home or recovery home. So for those reasons, you have a tough decision to make. I think that there need to be conditions. I'm opposed to this in its current state and how it's been presented, how it's gotten around and skirted the law. My heart goes out to the applicants. I know they have money out, but you have to do the right thing. And the people, their clients, have to be taken care of too. For those reasons, I ask that you deny it. In lieu of that, I ask that you put those conditions that I asked for. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Next speaker, please.
Lisa Dalton.
Do you solemnly swear that you will tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do. Hi, I'm Lisa Dalton. My husband and I own 24 and 25 Placid, so we own two of the properties at the beginning of the street. A lot of the topics that I came to talk about were already covered by the other neighbors on the street, but one of the biggest things that I think is not really being understood is Placid Drive is not a drive. It's not even a court. It is a very small, private, like somebody's personal driveway. And if you have an emergency situation at one end of the street, no one can get through to the other end. A fire truck cannot get through if there's a car parked on the street. So it should be a court. It's definitely not a drive. And I'm concerned that I feel like the managers or the owners of Liv, Cameo and her husband, they knew what was going to be required of them, and they put the lives of their residents in their hands put them in jeopardy by going forward with all this, hoping not to get caught, asking forgiveness later. So it doesn't matter what type of business. We don't want any type of business on that road. The infrastructure cannot support it. So that's all I have to say.
Any questions? Thank you. Next speaker.
Derek Jones.
Thanks,
Okay. Danielle.
Do you solemnly swear that you will tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do. My name's Danielle Gilbert. I'm an LMSW. I've worked in treatment the last few years. I'm also in recovery myself. I don't want to get into that story. I just want to talk a little bit, though, about what I've heard through the last two meetings. When I was here last time, what I heard a lot of the neighborhood talk about was this idea that my children play in the woods. I wanted to have a family here, but I wouldn't have bought the house had I known this. And it's coming from a lot of fear and a lot of stigma, and I think a lot of unknowing, and just not really understanding things. If you look at research, there's no research that shows us that property value goes down. 2019, the National Bureau of Economic Research looked into this. They looked at rehab facilities, they looked at sober livings. There was no research that supported that property values lost their value because of these institutions. Additionally, crime rates don't go up. There is no statistics, no evidence-based research to show this. So I think a lot of these things that are being brought to your attention have to do with fear and not knowing, not in my backyard. I currently work with a lot of our hospital systems in St. Charles. I work with the St. Charles Ambulance District. This is something that is in our backyard, and I know we want to protect ourselves. I know that these neighbors want this neighborhood to be safe. The roads, these are things that need to be addressed. I've worked with Cameo for a while, outside of even this, but when she opened the Sober Livings a couple years back, I was a discharge planner at a local facility. I sent my clients to Cameo because I trusted her. I trusted her programs. They were structured. I had faith that she was putting out a product, and by product I mean her home, that my clients could sustain and become contributing members of our society through. And that's what I saw. I see my clients doing well, becoming contributing parts of society. The things that need to get fixed can be fixed. The roads can be fixed. They're willing to do this. I mean, as a gentleman said earlier, my neighbor used to take care of this. It sounds like there's not necessarily a system that is set up there, but the Jones are willing to be a part of that system. When I've gone to visit the houses in the past, I will tell you, I have to use my GPS to figure out which house it is, because I don't see the cars there, and I know that there are cars there at times. But when I've gone before to, and just not just to this one, but to other homes as well, I literally use my GPS because it doesn't stick out. And again, this is an important thing for those people that they are serving. Putting them in a house that is half condemned in the city is no way conducive to allowing members of our community to become contributing parts of our society again. They need to be in neighborhoods that we live in. I needed that. I needed to be able to be a part of that. And again, it's not going to affect their property value. It's not going to increase the crime in their neighborhood. It's simply going to give their neighbors an opportunity to come back and to contribute to their community again. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Any
Thanks.
questions? Thank you.
Steve Liebert.
Do you solemnly swear that you will tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do. How you doing? One concern that I have regarding safety, the applicants' policies, and I guess their accreditation requires them to do background checks, or they state that they do background checks. If this were to get approved for this, or even approved for the 8 residents there, what requirements do they have to continue background checks of any kind if they were to lose their accreditation or change their policies? If this is approved for permanent use and they decide to change their policies at any given time and not do background checks anymore or lose their accreditation anymore, how can they guarantee the safety of their residents for the other community members that live in the surrounding area? That's one point or question I have. The other question or point that I have is if the applicants pay rent, which I understand that they do, if this place were to get closed down, why can't they just pay rent somewhere else at another facility that's more conducive to the scenario? So, that's all I have.
Any questions for Steve? Steve, where do you live?
I live just across the woods in the connecting subdivision, so my driveway connects about at the 1,000 feet mark for the surrounding area. So I was one of the folks that signed the petition and the.
So you're not on Oakleaf Bluff, you're on
I'm on
other side on.
Summerview Drive across the woods from the back of where the street dead ends.
Oh, okay. So I see where you
My
are.
children play in the woods in the subdivision, right behind the house there. So that was a comment that came from me. And again, with the safety concerns regarding the background checks, accreditations, what requirements do they have to do background checks, and who keeps up with that, and who's assuring that the residents are safe for, residential single home neighborhood where kids are playing in the woods right behind the house?
Gotcha. Okay. Any questions? Thanks, Steve.
Thank you.
Any of the speakers?
On that issue, that was the last speaker.
All right, so I'd invite the applicant back up. There's been a number of questions that have been asked. Do you want to answer any of those? Background check being the first one, I guess.
With that accountability, that's all done through NAR, and I encourage everyone to research after this. We have people that hold us accountable on a national level on what we do there. I'm sorry.
It's easier to understand.
Yes, we have organizations that hold us accountable to what we do. For example, one of my houses was recertified today, and they went through all the things that we discussed today, so there is accountability on that part. As far as the parking, that's already been resolved. As far as the streets, and I don't mean any offense when I say this, but the roads were crappy before we got there.
Right.
Okay, so we didn't do that, but we are willing to contribute to a solution. We are willing to do our part. I want the neighbors and everyone behind me to hear, we are willing to do our part. We are not hiding. We are not trying to hurt you or anyone else. We are here to be an asset and to contribute, and we are more than willing to do so. I instead of seeing as a place that could cause damage to the roads, if I were you, I'd be happy that 10 men are able to take care of it and you don't.
Any other questions for the applicant? All right, I think we're good. Thank you very much. Any questions for staff? So with that, that will conclude the public comment for this portion of the conditional use permit. The lady, I'm sorry, I don't remember which one it was who had the signatures. Is it Tracy? Is that your name? Yeah. That was a good guess. So Tracy, if you would, make sure that is turned in. Do we have that? Okay, great. That's the only other thing I want. Oh, sorry. So what we'll do is we do not vote on this tonight. So planning and zoning hears it. We all got video clips, so much of what you all saw, Mr. Hollander sat through it twice now. We all got video clips, and we got the chance to see your comments there. So now the council will have 2 weeks to consider this, and then we will come back in 2 weeks. Yes, Claire?
I'm going to read the bill since I did not read it before we introduced.
Oh, God love you.
staff.
I got lost in that 2 hours ago.
Bill number 4944, requested by Mike Hurlbert, sponsored by John White. An ordinance granting conditional use permit CUP 21-03 for a group home facility to Joseph E. Pranger and Edward L. Gallagher, property owners, and Live Recovery Sober Living, a Missouri not-for-profit organization, Cameo N. Jones, registered agent and applicant.
Excellent. So does anyone on the council have any other discussion on this matter before I wrap this up? So just so everybody knows, when we come back together in 2 weeks, there will be no discussion. This ends it tonight. So we won't have another 2-hour discussion of what's going on, and there will be resolution one way or the other. So we will have that resolution vote, assuming, of course, no one votes to table the bill. That's all. There's a wrinkle. Mr. Brazel.
I just got a quick question for Mr. Rice. You don't have to come up here, but you can stand up or whatever. But if in fact that there were some conditions put on, whether or not it goes through or not, I don't know. I'm neutral right here. But if in fact they were going to do it and the council made a condition that there was a 6-foot privacy fence put up from the house all the way to the rear, is that going to be, does that help? Okay.
Mr. Cronin, sorry.
I'd like to make the comment that everybody here admires the work you folks do, and we have empathy for your cause. We get that, okay? In fact, St. Charles County residents have voted for a sales tax that goes to Community and Children's Resource Board, and I looked up their services, and they do service homeless, and they do drug treatment. So every taxpayer in this county is throwing in money every time they go to the store to support operations like what you do. The question is whether this is an appropriate operation for that community, that district. That's it. So I just want to make sure you're clear of that, okay?
Well, and I think the other final point to say about that is it's really the location that is in question. So it's not what you do. It's more of, is this the best place to do it? So with that, we will close this. For those of you who, I'm sorry, Mr. White, did you have, I didn't see you raise your hand, my bad.
I didn't.
Oh.
I just winked at you. I had a parliamentary question.
Yes, sir.
Since I'm the sponsor of the bill, if I was to withdraw my sponsorship of it, and there were 3 concurrences, would the bill die?
No.
Okay. Carry on.
Very well. All right, so just as a point of order, for those of you who do not wish to stick around to the rest of the county council meeting, you are free to leave, because we will not be discussing this matter anymore tonight. So some of us will be here for a while, but you do not have to be.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, so with that, we will move on to our next conditional use, which is bill number 4945.
Bill
and
number
this is for a fireworks stand. Sorry.
Bill number 4945, requested by Mike Hurlbert, sponsored by Joe Cronin. An ordinance granting conditional use permit FWK 21-13 for a temporary fireworks stand to Martin J. Fears, registered agent and organizer of Show Me Fireworks LLC, applicant, and Charles R. Rogers and Marcia M. Rogers, property owners.
Robert, you've already been sworn in, so we can skip that part.
Right, okay. Quickly, this is a conditional use permit request for a fireworks stand according to our ordinances, most fireworks stands are approved by the Planning and Zoning Commission. You delegated that authority to the Planning and Zoning Commission. But according to the ordinance, in cases where the Planning and Zoning Commission denies the fireworks stand conditional use permit, then it's automatically appealed to the county council. So that's why it's before you here tonight. The Planning and Zoning Commission at their most recent meeting voted 7 in denial and 0 in approval for this fireworks stand. The location is 1730 Old Highway 79. And if you know Old Highway 79, it loops around from the State Highway 64 and comes back down. It's at the bottom of the loop. And it's across, the location is right at the intersection of Highway 60.
79.
I'm sorry, why did I say that? 79 and Old 79. And it's the proposed entrance to this fireworks stand is across from Homefield Ridge Drive. And the Planning and Zoning Commission, after the consideration, their discussion included the fact that the entrance is basically right on the curve of Old 79, and it's across from the Subdivision, which is located in the city of O'Fallon. There's concerns about traffic and turning and that curve and the visibility at that location. That location is zone commercial, and it's vacant, so it is zone commercial. There is a fire hydrant right there, but again, the main consideration is the fact that you have it's very close to 79 and the curve that comes off 79.
Okay.
Do you got an aerial photo of it?
It's in your packet.
It's in the packet.
How do you look that up? What the hell are you supposed to do?
All right, do you want to introduce the applicant?
I'm not certain if Marty Pierce is here tonight, but, okay, great.
Come on up.
Do you solemnly swear that you will tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
And your name?
I'm Martin Pierce.
Hey, Martin, do you want to tell us a little bit about the application?
Well, I've known about the location for a long time. I'm not sure what the problem is with the location. I don't know if they're not sure exactly where the entrance is or not, but it's basically, like you said, right at the corner of, there's a vacant lot right at the corner of 79 and Old 79. About 275 feet back off of 79 on Old 79, there's a farm entrance into the lot. It's 60 foot wide.
There you go, Joe.
Yeah, I got it, yeah.
It's 60 foot wide. It's right beside that fire hydrant. That fire hydrant's right on the one side of where the entrance is into it. It's pretty much right across from Homefield's entrance, what's on that picture there you got up.
Yep.
It's pretty much straight across from that there. There is a turn lane to get into Homefield, so I don't see it really affecting the traffic on Old 79 very much. There's a turn lane on going back to the north on 79 to be able to make a left-hand turn in there, so there's a left-hand turn lane in there. The whole area down in here that's kind of surrounded by a creek, you can kind of see the brushy area around it. I'm pretty much going to gravel that whole area, so that's where the parking will be. You know, our busiest days are on the 3rd and the 4th. I know that traffic's pretty busy on the 79 and stuff during the week from work people, but a lot of people are off on the 4th. The 4th is our busiest day, so you don't have that normal traffic to worry about the normal traffic you'd have on a normal work day. So I don't know.
Okay, any questions for the applicant? No? All right. That's it, thank you. So at this point, we would open it up. Did you have something you wanted to ask?
No, Mr. Myers, this is the first time that this particular property has been used for a fireworks stand, is that correct? This has not been used, this property as a fireworks stand in the past?
Yeah, I have no knowledge of any past fireworks stands at this location, maybe many years ago. Okay. But this is the first time in recent history that would be used for a fireworks stand.
I may have a couple things to add too that I didn't mention. Sure. Also, the closest house or residence to the fireworks stand would be 160 feet away. You can be 50 feet from a gas station. So I know some residents are worried about it being close to their house and it blowing up and damaging their house. Fireworks don't work that way. Not the kind of fireworks I deal with anyways.
Okay, Mr. Cronin.
I'm very familiar with this area. I've lived in this area my whole life. I currently live a couple miles. I drive by that spot every day, and planning and zoning got this right. It's not a good location for a fireworks stand. It's on a kind of a blind curve. It's right across from a normal residential O'Fallon subdivision, and that area is not designed for that much traffic, okay? I also, as far as the plans go, Mr. Fears, it looks like it was done on a cocktail napkin, I'm sorry, but it doesn't say anything about is there big enough turnaround for emergency vehicles, et cetera, et cetera. So I think planning and zoning got this right. There's lots of other locations. Look across 79 and look all up and down 79, there's tons of commercial and agricultural
Not
area
true.
to put signs. Yes, it is, sir. I know the area. I'll give you some names if you want. There's lots of other locations for a fireworks stand on 79 besides this one that's not right across the street from the O'Fallon subdivision on a blind curve.
There isn't any of that along 79 that's on that side of 79 that you're talking about over on Keevan
I
side.
know everybody that owns ground is.
It's not commercial though.
It's agricultural, okay?
We can't set up on agriculture. We gotta be commercial.
I'd sooner give you a variance for that than put that thing where you're at right now.
Well, if you do that, I'd do that.
Yeah. There's also, just so you know, there's more commercial.
I gotta pick the locations that.
On the other end of Old 79, there's commercial down by the body shop, okay, that's zoned
Where?
commercial in the city of St. Paul. On the other end of Old 79, where it loops around, goes to the north side, okay?
Hey, with all due respect, guys, I'll let you debate another location later. Right now, I've got this one in front of us, and I don't have any other location in St. Charles County pending, so I'll invite you to have a seat so I can open this up for
And
public
I do
comment.
believe, that when the planning and zoning went and looked at it, they recommended approval.
Well, what's before us is a denial.
Okay. All right.
So, yeah, that's,
All right. Thank
that's why you're here. So right now, we're going to open it up for public comment. Any individual supporting or opposing this application is invited to share their comments with the council. Council staff will call you forward one at a time. Each speaker who has submitted a speaker card, upon the conclusion of the individual's comments, will ask you to remain at the podium for any follow-up questions from the council staff or the applicant. We encourage you to keep your comments to 3 minutes. I know, Mr. Dienoff, you can speak as long as you want to. And should another speaker have to share the same information already, we would ask you to just say ditto, and the record will reflect that you share the stated opinion. Our first speaker is
Arnie Dienoff.
You already sworn in from earlier.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, members of the council. My name is Arnie C. A.C. Dienoff, County Public Advocate. First of all, I'd like to correct the official record. In your packet, there was a memo by Mr. Hurlbert from Community Development, and then the application page known as Exhibit B. On the first page of Exhibit B, where it states speakers, it says one opposed. That is not accurate, because if you watch the video, I spoke, and then there were 2 or 3 other gentlemen, they're residents of Homefield, that spoke. So the actual record should be opposed speakers, should be 3 or 4. And so I'd like somebody to amend that and correct that situation. I would invite every member of the council. Mr. Cronin kind of set the tone. This is a very dangerous intersection. It's very curvy. There's hills, there's sight distances. I asked staff at the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting, did anybody look into the accident reports from the Missouri Highway Patrol, from the O'Fallon Police Department, and from the O'Fallon Fire Protection District? And nobody could come up with that, but I could tell you that there are weekly accidents that happen at that intersection. During rush hour in the mornings and in the afternoons, from 3 to 7, that highway and that intersection is used very heavily. The terrain, the safety curves, the MoDOT sight distance, I spoke to people at MoDOT, they have concerns. They would have to receive a external exit permit from County Highways. Mr. Tatowski, who's in attendance, he can testify if he wishes, or you choose to call upon him, about the dangers of the curve, and the photo speaks for itself. There's also questions. Right now, it's heavily wooded. There's a lot of brush and debris. It's not trash, but it's debris from being grown up. The parking, and as Mr. Cronin said, the availability of access from emergency vehicles, I don't think it can be done with gravel or with the current configuration. For those reasons, as I testified at Planning and Zoning, thank heavens the commissioners listened, they saw the map, and they denied 7 denial and 0 for approval. I ask that you follow the same and that you uphold the decision of Planning and Zoning Commission meeting commissioners, and if there's any questions, I'll be more than happy to entertain them.
Thank you, Mr. Enoff. Our next speaker is?
Final speaker on the fireworks.
Final
permit.
speaker. Does council have any questions on this application? Again, it works the same way, sir, on the previous CUP. This closes the public comment on this application. When we come back in 2 weeks, we will do a final vote on this. So we are done discussing this matter for now. Oh, yes, you can. Sorry. You do have the right to do that. My bad.
One is, he's talking about the brush and stuff that's along the creek and stuff in that area. My intentions were, if I was to get the location, all that stuff along that creek in there was gonna be all mowed down and taken down so it would have better visibility. And there's almost a half acre of parking down in that, can I walk up to the screen?
Sure.
Just so. The entrance would be right in here. The tent would be right here. This whole area out here is parking. There's plenty, if there was ever an incident to have to get into the tent, they'd be able to come straight into it, and it wouldn't be a problem at all for emergency vehicles.
Okay.
Any questions?
Anyone have any questions? Do you have any other comments?
Nope.
We're good to go. Thank you very
I have
much.
one last comment.
Oh,
Okay.
Mr. Cronin has a comment.
The roadway on, the right-of-way on Highway 79 is extremely wide through there. I would say it's at least 100 foot. I know because MoDOT will take down campaign signs on that strip. So a lot of what you see in that yellow area is unusable because the fact that that right-of-way extends into that property a good ways. I even think it's at least 100, it might be more than that.
Okay. Thank you very much. We appreciate it. With that, we will move on to public hearing for VAC 20-02. Claire, do you need to read? No, so we're just doing a
No,
public hearing. Do we have any comments?
I do not have a comment card for anyone in public hearing.
That's the VAC, that's the vacation of Hoffman. Yeah,
We read those in and not when the bill's in.
right.
Okay. Oh, sorry, I apologize. Chris Vaughn.
I don't know, Robert gonna talk first?
What's that? No, this is a public hearing, so
Okay.
This is a
you don't have to
different
be sworn in. It's
situation.
only for the CUP. I know it's strange, isn't
Yeah,
it?
yeah.
You don't have to be sworn in for public comment either.
Okay.
But you still
I
have
have
to tell the truth.
Slide
You
on the
still
left
need to
side.
tell the truth. That's true. It's kind of implied at this point.
All right. Who's gonna, do I need to, I'd like to show it up here.
Slide presentation?
Yes. Well, there's a few photos, yeah. But I'm just vacating, there's 7 lots in Hoffman Hills,
Yes, sir.
and it was 6. I have 2 lots. And the neighbors do not want access from the neighborhood road. So I'm ready for this to be vacated because I have a signed, notarized, quick deed claim to get access from the back, and I was going to show that.
I think she's going to load that for you.
in here.
All right. So it appeases everybody's concerns, basically, that access would come to the neighborhood to be in the back. If they're vacated out of the neighborhood, it would, the homeowners association.
Which one is it?
I just go down in order. You want me to do that?
Oh.
I don't think so. Is there any opposition to this?
Oh, I just want,
Sir,
is this, yes.
Is there any opposition to this?
Well, my whole neighborhood's here, I don't know.
Is there opposition? Okay, that's all. I was just curious.
See what all these PDFs?
See, I had to protect my,
Yeah.
You want all these PDFs open?
yeah.
Okay. But nothing else, or do you need these pictures open too?
No, do you want me to just open them? Oh, they're not in order.
Yeah,
That's quick decline. I had it numbered, so they'd be name ordered. There we go. There we go, in this order. No? Oh, they start from the bottom, okay. Are they able to see that, or?
Yeah, can you give us 1 second, please?
Okay.
There you go.
Yeah, that's the plat it is now, the two
You want to
lots.
click that square and enlarge that up, and there you go. Can you hit that arrow halfway down on the side panel, close that other over?
Jumping around the
There
mouse
you
is-
go.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Okay.
That makes it at least a little better.
So the piece you see is the back of the lot. The front of the lot is what you can't see. That connects with the rest of the neighborhood. So I have as you see it, that's the lot that will remain in the homeowner association. The lot in the back will be what's removed from the homeowner association. Down here. Oh, okay, thank you. And this is what the whole neighborhood looks like. And point this. Okay, there it is. I saw it move. I gotta hold it down, okay.
There it
So
is.
this is my lot right here.
Okay.
And that's the rest of them. So what I'm taking out is the back here. And I've already met with the whole homeowner association, and they knew my intentions. And I have the quick deed claim to get this lot right, this piece right here, the parcel, so it'll have access from Hopewell Road.
How many acres you got? You got that's a 3-acre subdivision, right?
Yeah, I had a 10.84 acres. Everybody else had 3-acre lots.
So you want to vacate that, I'm trying to understand what you're trying to do.
I'm dividing this in half, and I'm vacating the back. It's already 2 lots, so this lot in the back, I'm vacating it to get access from Hopewell, so it doesn't have to go through the subdivision, the neighborhoods. Street
So how many, so you got 10 acres, you got 10 acres and you're vacating, what are the 2 lots going to be?
Well, go back to the other one. You want to see that photo again?
Is it 2 5-acre lots? Is that
Yeah, it's 2 5-acre lots.
Okay.
It was 10 total, but now right now it's two 5-acre lots.
And so you're going to sell one of the other lots, or what's your plan?
Well, I'm not going to be able to, I'm probably going to sell the top piece and keep the back for myself.
Okay.
It has a house on it. I mean, it's a nice home. Life happened, so.
Why, I'm really curious on Roy, Roy?
Yes.
If you got 10 acres, you divide it in half, and you got 2 5-acre lots, why is he vacating, why isn't he just divided in half? I don't quite
It's part of
understand
the
that.
subdivision.
Oh, because it's a subdivision rule?
Correct.
Oh.
I had the same question.
Yeah. So to Pisa, to make sure I don't go, this is you can see an aerial view of this. This is a little better. You can see our street right here. My house is way back in the back. It's not
Okay.
near the road.
No, we get it.
And so I have the acreage down below that I'm divided. That's the second lot down there. It's a beautiful flat land down there.
No, I know exactly, I live out that way. I
Yeah.
know exactly where you are. I'm just, yeah, that's fine. You don't need to explain anymore. I mean,
And I've already got, I can show you the highway. You may have already have this on your file there. They've already approved access from Hopewell Road.
I'm just more curious what the opposition is. I don't quite understand it, so.
And then Robert and I, as soon as I get it divided, I'll get the surveyor. I'll be working with Robert and Mark to do whatever I need to do to wrap that up.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Any questions?
Does anyone have questions? Not yet.
Not yet. All right. Thank you.
All right, so I'm assuming that the neighbors are here to speak on this.
Yeah, 80% of the neighborhood's here, if not all of them. I'm not sure. So,
Well,
I don't know the opposition either because I'm trying to do everything they want.
20% of New Melly, isn't it?
So I'm just going to pull this out.
do you have cards to speak on this?
Yes.
Excellent. All right, first speaker would be?
Barb Brooks.
I feel like you guys could move up if you want, since the front row got opened. It's late in the game, so you can move down. The ushers won't check your tickets. Go ahead, Barb, I'm sorry.
Okay, I'm Barb Brooks, and I live at 50 Hoffman Hills. It's not so much that we have a problem with what Mr. Vaughn wants to do. It's that we want to make sure that it is done in such a way that back property can never be accessed from Hoffman Hills Road, where we live in our subdivision. The subdivision began as a subdivision of 4 lots. The bigger lot was bigger because it allowed to have a barn, and it was allowed to have horses and all kinds of other things. Since then, Chris has decided that that's not what they want to do, although they do have a very, very large structure on it besides the home. But our problem with it is that we maintain, it's a private road. We maintain the road. We have paid to have it overlaid. We have paid to have it sealed. We have paid to fill in cracks, all the other things. We have to pay for the road. Now that the road is complete and we have a nice road, we don't want construction traffic coming down our road and going up to that second lot. If the person that buys that lot deems it to be impossible to get to that lot from Hoffman, or if it's or from Hopewell, or if it's too expensive to go over, there's a creek, to go over that creek and then build and come in off of Hopewell. We're very afraid that they will then come to you and say, this is an impossible thing to do. We want to come in through Hoffman Hills. Hoffman Hills, like I said, we've paid for everything. We've shared the expense. If that lot then vacates and they are later on able to come in and access lot or plat 3A from Hoffman Hills, they could conceivably ruin our street, and we then would have to repair that street, and they'd not have to do a thing to it. I understand that Chris is really trying to do things the right way. He's trying to get access off of Hopewell Road, but we don't know who's going to live in his house 5 years from now, who's going to buy that plot 5 years from now, whether or not they're going to look at that and say, it is prohibitive to put a bridge over this and a road up to my house. It would be so much easier and so much cheaper to come in Hoffman Hills. That's what I want to do. And we want an assurance that St. Charles County is not going to allow them to do that, because we do pay for that road. And if that particular lot is vacated from our subdivision, then they won't have to do anything to fix the road after it's done. They could conceivably go to the person who is living where Chris lives now, go to Chris or whoever's living there 5 years from now, and say, can I share your driveway? And they even talked about it in planning and zoning. They improved the application for the re-subdivision of Lot 3 of Hoffman Hills subdivision on September 16th, 2020, even though it didn't meet the technical requirements of Chapter 410, which are subdivision requirements. In reviewing those minutes, it's clear that planning and zoning voted only as they did, with the understanding that those points would be addressed and that his back lot could be accessed from Hopewell Road. We want assurance in writing that that is the only way it will ever be.
Okay.
Because we have spent copious amounts of money on the road.
Sure.
Okay?
Mr. Brazel.
Yes.
Don't go anywhere yet.
Rory, if they're vacated from the subdivision, that means they're no longer part of the subdivision, correct? Is that right?
Yeah.
Is that right? Yeah.
So then if that person would not be able to enter that subdivision, because then it would be trespassing, because it's a private road, correct? That's right. You can't just, I live on a private gravel road, you can't There's a guy that butts up next to me that's not part of that gravel road. He wanted to put a garage in off the gravel road, and he wasn't allowed to because it's not.
I think you're conflating the difference between a private road, which deals with maintenance of the road, and whether or not the public has right to access that road. And so
They don't have the right to access a private subdivision.
We're afraid they would if it's landlocked, because there's no other way to get there if they can't come off of
Well, I think,
Hopewell
I
Road.
understand your concern, and I understand what Chris is, whoever buys it, he's gonna build a house, whatever. But we could put a condition on the vacation that would say that, that if that's what you all are trying to do, that person that buys that lot, whatever that number is, at Breast's Hopewell Road, they can't have access. They can't have a driveway access off of that subdivision.
Mr. Hellman?
Yeah, maybe I don't understand it, but it sounds what you're asking is you want them to vacate not just the lot, but the easement to the lot. I mean, is that what you're asking?
Right now, the easement.
And would that
to this
accomplish
lot is to
what she's
3B,
asking?
not 3A.
Yeah, I know, but you're saying you've got an easement from the road over the lot he has his house on right now to the second lot, and he wants to vacate the second lot from the subdivision, and as long as he vacates along with that lot, the easement that services that lot, then you shouldn't have a problem, right? Correct. That's all you're asking for.
That's all we're asking for, but we want that. and
So we
want
could
it in
add that.
writing.
I just had that. We could just add that as a condition.
I think so.
I believe so.
Is that okay with everybody?
Thank you, Mark.
That work?
So with that, before we bring up our next speaker, Robert, can you come back? You can have a seat, Mark, thanks.
I have a question.
Yes.
If somebody buys that lot that's been vacated, they can establish some sort of an easement to their property. They have the right to do that.
Off of Hopewell, though.
They'd have to file a lawsuit.
No, it butts off Hopewell. There's no problem there. They just got to know that they got to cross the creek.
It's not really landlocked if it's got access to Hopewell.
So,
Yeah, but sometimes it's not that there's no other way to get in. They can talk about the most convenient way to get in. I mean, I think that still is an issue, that a new owner could file a lawsuit and the court would determine that.
That it was landlocked.
Well.
so you've heard the questions that have come up so
Well,
far.
I'm just saying, I'm not so sure that nobody could ever come in and try to establish a different way in there. And even if we said they couldn't, that wouldn't hold up in court. A court wouldn't be bound by whatever agreement is made here.
Yeah, but how would he get a building permit if he's violating the county ordinance?
Well, I don't know. I'm not, all I'm talking about is the legal right to have access to property that,
So,
you know,
Robert,
I don't know.
in hearing this, and Chris, if I understand this correctly, are you still going to use that access?
No, the quick deed claim I have access to Hopewell Road, I already did it once, and Robert and Mark thought it'd be cleaner if I swapped the land back to take it out of the homeowner association. So I still have it where I can swap back and get the land access to Hopewell Road. That's not gonna be landlocked.
So, Robert, you understand what everybody's trying to do?
Right. Yes, this was 10 acres, one 10-acre lot. Now it's two basically 5-acre lots, a
Right.
front and behind. The part that's behind the house, the 5 acres, it doesn't front on any street. It has an easement of access leading to it from Hoffman Hills Drive at 25 feet wide. And so that's a 25-foot wide easement of access. It squeezes past the garage, between the garage and the property line, and it goes to the back. And so right now, that's on the plat, that 25-foot wide easement of access. And I would call that kind of the backup plan in case this, for some reason, wouldn't work. But we've heard from the neighbors, and we've had letters that's saying that 3 letters that we've received said they were fine with vacating this lot from subdivision so long as he could never have access from Hoffman Hills Drive. There's 3 options according to the ordinance that I can tell. One is to approve his application with no conditions. One is to approve it with conditions, and the other is to deny it. So one option may be to approve it with a condition of removing that 25-foot access easement from Hoffman Hills Drive. I mean, that's an idea. But he's stated that his intent is to take access off of Hopewell Road. He has a land swap that he's worked out with his neighbor to swap some land, so he'll actually front on Hopewell Road in the back. And he's applied to the Highway Department for a driveway access on Hopewell Road, which they've agreed to. But again, there's a creek back there, like it's been mentioned, and it's going to be difficult and expensive to get across that creek. We've talked about that with the applicant, and he's aware of that too.
So Chris, would you voluntarily give up the easement to the subdivision?
Let's get
Well, then let's just do that.
Let's do that
I
and be
mean,
done with it.
We'll have Rory
Well,
look at
We,
it.
we still have public comment and they still have cards, so as much as I appreciate the fact that we just solved the problem, God love government, let's continue to go through the process. Claire, who's our next speaker?
The resident at 20 Hoffman Hills. I can't read your signature. Greaves?
We're about to find out the answer to that question.
So, did I do this? We also want Chris to vacate because, that would be great. But there's just a lot of loose ends, as someone at the Planning and Zoning meeting had talked about, because it's fast. We just don't want this pushed through. It's just a lot of fast stuff going on. Why can't we just table it and then figure out what's going on? Chris, as a condition, I think Mr. Cleary talked about it at the Planning and Zoning meeting. Mr. Cleary understood that the neighborhood wanted, they just didn't want access to the road, blah, 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 went through the whole thing. And he said, well, let's make it a condition that he has to get road access approval to Hopewell. Okay? So that's one of the things. We don't know that really ever happened. Instead of just saying, this is what we're going to do, this is just me, I'm not a lawyer, I'm just talking. Instead of just saying, let's just get rid of that easement, at this point, we want him to have the proper documents that say he has road access to Hopewell. And I don't know if you guys read, or if you listen to the YouTube meetings or not. Okay, and Chris himself said when, I'm a Hertz, so that was my long letter, I have long letters. My husband was asking about the vegetation, the buffers that go around, and is that going to be a hardship for a driveway? And Chris himself said at the meeting that, that's not going to be a problem at all. I have a current driveway and I have 100 feet of 3-foot pipe, and that it'll be the same thing. And I want to point out that the minutes of the Planning and Zoning does not even indicate that, but it says it on the, so there's a lot of discrepancies. So anyway, instead of just rushing this through, can't we just make sure everything is done right? Chris and Mr. Edwards swapped land, the quitclaim deed you were talking about. When we looked up the GIS, we got the quitclaim stuff at the recorder's office, and we looked at the GIS map, and it shows a little highlighted blue things that they would have, I guess they swapped. I don't know. I'm assuming that's what it is. But when you click on the map, it shows that Edwards still owns the old property. So I don't know how, not knowing anything, I don't know how Chris would have gotten a road access to Mr. Edwards' Hopewell unless Chris asked him that permission. Do you get what I'm saying? Chris told told Planning and Zoning that he swapped land and he got road of Edwards that's behind Lot A, that he can go out to Hopewell, and that hasn't been shown yet. So I'm just wondering, and tell me if I'm wrong, and it's just an idea, if we table this, can't we get all the, first of all, the notification letter doesn't indicate, what do you call it? A legal description.
This does not get voted on tonight.
Do it?
This does not get voted on tonight.
Tonight is just the public hearing and finding out everything.
Okay.
The earliest we would vote on this would be in 2 weeks.
So we can't, what am I saying? If I want it tabled, what do I say tonight? I'm just telling you what's going on.
Well, you've already said it, so we understand, but one of the council members has to move to table it.
Okay, all right.
So you can make the request, but one of the council members has to actually bring up that motion to table it. But we don't have to vote on this tonight, so we've got 2 weeks between now and when we would actually vote on it to come to some sort of resolution as to whatever questions come up today. That's why we have the public
Okay,
hearing.
all right.
So it's to find out all of your concerns, to find out all the issues that are there. If they get resolved to council's satisfaction within the next 2 weeks, we can vote on it. If someone wants to table it, it can be tabled, but that's where we sit right now.
Okay, so in that 2 weeks, then Chris can work on working out those.
That's the whole idea.
Yes,
Yeah.
ma'am.
All right, so that's what I want to want.
Anyone have any questions for her?
No, we're good.
All right, thanks very much.
All right, thanks.
Next speaker.
Arnie Dienoff.
It's the hat trick.
I'm sorry?
It's the hat trick.
There you go.
But it's okay, we're going to go for 4 here in a little bit.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. I have a different spin on this, and it's protect our county and our residents. The application was not attached, and the documents that were discussed tonight, it was very unclear as a person reading the packet to understand exactly what was transpiring. There needs to be protections for the county and for future annexations. Wentzville, Lake St. Louis, and O'Fallon are all creeping into that neighborhood and trying to annex a number of properties. If Mr. Vaughn is going to ask for the county engineer to ask for entrance to Hopewell, my questions, and I want to put it on the record, are we getting the easement or the land necessary for road expansion? We need to straighten up that roadway. There's a lot of accidents on Hopewell. What about enough land for drainage, enough land for sidewalk or trail? And the county, as staff, we need to start somewhere, or the staff needs to start somewhere, and now's the time to do it. So if he's asking for an entrance onto Hopewell, I want to make sure that we're getting enough land for the easement, for road construction, doing the necessary safety enhancements, drainage, and sidewalk insulation. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next speaker.
That's our final speaker.
Final speaker. All right. Any questions from the council?
Yeah,
Chris, come on back.
to make it clear, I did swap land once, so I had access, but Robert asked me, and them asked me to swap it back, so we're going to swap, it's the third time I'm swapping it again. So we'll be access to Hopewell Road. I already have the signed notarized document for the quitclaim deed from my neighbor, but I have to wait until the vacation has happened. So that'll please everybody, I think.
Chris, did you get the access to Hopewell Road, you
Yeah,
said?
yeah.
You did, okay, so I'll talk to Roy, and if you say you'll vacate the easement going to the subdivision, then that solves it all, because there's no way anybody can get to that.
Yeah, and I can show photos of that, I mean, the trade.
So we'll just talk with Robert, and Robert can do whatever, the conditional, change the conditions to have him get rid of that, and we're done. We'll talk about it, but that should work for everybody.
Okay, thank you.
So with that, we'll close the public hearing on this exciting topic.
And this has been 2 years in the making, there's no rushing through. It's taken me 2 years to get.
You're not in a hurry though, are you, Chris? No. Yeah, I know, believe me.
The overnight success that took 2 years to get there. There you go. All right, so we'll move on to public comment. Whenever we do public comment, thank you folks for coming. You're free to leave. You have 3 minutes to speak. Whenever you hear the timer go off, I will stop you and ask for the next speaker. So with that, our first speaker is...
Ashley Buscelli.
Hi, Ashley. Thanks for your patience.
Yeah.
Actually, we meet the second and last Monday of every month, and we invite you to come back and bring
My
your
husband's
friends.
going to be at every one, I think. Thank you for a chance to express my thoughts. This is my first time at a council meeting, and it's
Welcome.
been very exciting and a good civics lesson. I also appreciate that the council has not mandated masks in our county, and that personal volition is still important to you, as I can see from your lovely faces. Unfortunately, I have to bring an issue to your attention concerning the St. Charles County Public Libraries. Our family and several other families have been experiencing discriminatory behavior from our public library in regards to their mask policy. Our families have experienced denial of service, denial of entry, and threats of police action if we don't comply. This policy and these experiences that we've had do not live up to the library's mission. Because of this policy, the library is now hindering my children and others' ability to freely discover on their own all the library has to offer. So we do plan to bring this up to the Library Board of Trustees tomorrow night at their meeting, but we felt it was important to make the council aware of what's happening and how this is negatively impacting the taxpayers and residents of St. Charles County. We have contacted the director of the library, but his response was that we must use the reasonable alternatives provided. The reasonable alternative is free parking lot Wi-Fi to search the online catalog. This is not acceptable to families, to residents, to taxpayers. For myself especially, and for my children who very much enjoy discovering the library, they're not able to navigate an online catalog well. They are young, and even if they could navigate it, that's not a suitable alternative for the library and all the resources they have. Another comment from the director included that the library is attempting to comply with peer libraries rather than the county guidelines of which we in the libraries reside. This makes little sense, nor is it fair and representative of the people in our county. St. Charles County has been a beacon over the last year for freedom and fun, and St. Louis residents have come over here in droves. So I would like to leave St. Louis County out of our practices. I assume the council does not want to encourage behavior that we have experienced, especially given the council's own approach of education rather than coercion. So I urge you to discuss this with the council, with the executive office, so we could get this mandatory mask policy removed. Patrons of the library should be welcome to wear a mask or not, just like this meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.
We're not supposed to talk, but I want to thank you
Yeah.
for being courageous and defending our liberties.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming. Next speaker.
Arnie Dinoff.
Now, see, she laughed, but I told you we would have 4. We're not new.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, members of the County Council. My name is Arnie C. A.C. Dinoff, County Public Advocate. First thing I'd like to address is on the consent agenda, the reappointment of the county board members who run our transportation system. I'm asking on the reappointment about how about giving others a chance to serve, just like the young lady. I'm sure she'd want to serve on a board or a commission. We live in a county of over 430,000 county residents. And so some of these people have served more than 10 years or more on this board, and it's time to step aside and allow other people to step up. What about the regulation of the county executive, Steve Ellman, that you shall not serve more than 3 consecutive terms on a board or commission? Is that really being fairly being initiated across the board? Because he did it to some planning and zoning commissioners. On the county port authority agreement, we have a conflict of interest on the county port authority. How can you have a member serving as chairman of the planning and zoning commission and serve as a member of the port authority? I believe that's in violation of Missouri revised state statutes. How can you have the chairman of the port authority also serve as the chairman of the county board of equalization, which deals with giving tax reductions to either businesses or residents? And he gets a hefty salary. I have a problem with that, and I believe it's a violation of the State Tax Commission promulgated rules and regulations and state statute. What about the other business profit conflicts that are on the board that you appointed? Televising, airing, and recording of all county port authority meetings. I ask that we do this to be transparent and open with the public. Why not utilize our over $2 million in television broadcasting staff members, operations and communications department? That's what we spend in this county. And so I think that you owe it to citizens for transparency, openness of meetings, and easy access to information, documents, and meetings of the county port authority. Spending $100,000 for a study that you don't have the money to pay for is kind of ridiculous. Remember, the Port Authority's aim zones, entitlement zones, and other subdistricts are like TIFs, tax increment finance districts, that we're all opposed to, and I don't understand why you're pushing this agenda. I'm asking that you invest in the students of the Wentzville fifth graders in their camp. I thought that someone on the council we'd see a resolution or a county ordinance on this evening's agenda, waiving fees, rentals, and other money for the fifth grade children of the Wentzville R4 school district. I forgot to send you a memo, and I guess it was my fault, but I thought that somebody would step up to the plate and make our students the focal point of our county. We have an obligation to invest in our
Thank you, Mr.
children and
Dinoff.
teach them to be good
Your time
stewards.
has expired. So our next speaker is Claire?
That's the final speaker.
Final speaker. So with that, that would wrap up public comments. You were one of two tonight, so congratulations. With that, we'll move on to the oral report from the county executive.
Mr. Speaker, I have nothing, but I would like to yield some time to Ryan to give you a quick report on the Wentzville School District contract, which you asked us some questions about 2 weeks ago. We didn't have the answers, and I'm going to ask Ryan to be as brief as you all will allow him to be.
So, good
It's good to
evening.
see
We do have a short video. Put it up to you if you want to see it, or we can just send you the link. If you want to play it, we can play it. If not, we can
Just
send you the
send us
link.
the link.
Send us the link.
There
I
you
thought
go.
that was probably the right thing there. So I just wanted to give you a little bit of a breakdown on the Wentzville School Days. St. Charles County Parks and the Wentzville School District has a long history of hosting this event. This event's been going on since around 2015. We have received no complaints from the school administration, the teachers, or the camp advisors that come out to this event. It runs every year. It's a very, obviously, a popular event. Like I said, we haven't received any other complaints from the administration or the school board, other than this one member who spoke, I think, as a private citizen last meeting.
He's on the school board.
Yeah, right, yeah. I think in his meeting, he said he was here as a private citizen, not, yeah, but anyways, just wanted to make that point clear. They host a spring camp and a fall camp every year, and each participant, each kid, just like many other field trips that schools take, is charged $25 by the school district to attend that event. So, like I said, with most other school trips, there is a fee associated with that. The school district requested the use of the reservation facilities to ensure that they're available at the time of their event. The last thing that any teacher or programmer wants to do is show up to an event that they have ready to go and find out that it's rented or being used by somebody else. So they want to rent it to ensure that it's available for their use. The event has grown every year. As the school district grows, they've added more dates, reserved more shelters, and more indoor facilities, and have asked for certain areas of the park to be used during their events. In the fall of 2021, they've added 5 additional days to each park, so they've added 10 additional days from the previous rental agreements. So it just continues to grow as the school district grows and more students come. So that right now they're reserving 20 days at Bromelsek and 20 days at Quail Ridge Park. They have rented the specialty shelter at Bromelsek, the group area at Bromelsek, and the Bromelsek meeting room facility. At Quail Ridge, they've rented the large shelters, Quail Ridge Lodge, and the group area, all for 20 days. We only charge them for the use of the facilities, since this use denies potentially other county residents to use the park amenities. So we only charge them, like I said, for the rental fee of the facilities. We have waived certain fees to reduce their cost. These waived fees represent about a 42% discount from what we could have charged for a special event this size. So we have worked with them in the past, on this contract. Security deposits and those sorts of things that are collected at the time of the reservation have always been refunded, or if they're not refunded, they just ask for it to be carried over into the next reservation. So like I said, we have worked with the school district to try to make this a very welcoming and enjoyable event for all the kids that come out. We have some staff time and various other things that we do not bill or do not charge as part of this that we could technically charge. Some other areas of the park that they use that we could technically charge, but we don't, for like the disc golf course, fields for archery and those sorts of things. So along with the video link, we'll also send you a sheet which basically shows our work on how we came to this and the discounts and things that we have already applied. And if you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to try to answer them now, or email me here or call me later.
Mr. Brazel and Mr. Cronin.
Ryan?
Yes, sir.
So I appreciate the sheet. I want to see the sheet.
Mhm.
But I guess the question would be are we charging them cost? Is there additional funding that we're making in addition to the cost?
No, so we have a flat fee for the shelters. So when we have a special use like this, they call us and they say, hey, we want to rent the large shelter for 20 days. We go 20 days, the fee, which is their standard fee. All our fees are actually under what is authorized for us to
Okay,
charge.
but what is what I'm saying about the cost? I mean, here's the thing, I got two ways of looking at this. I mean, if it's school kids renting this during the week, chances are it's not gonna get rented anyway. That's a high probability.
There are rentals in the week. I mean, we have daycares that come out. The other day, we had a construction company rent the group shelter on a Wednesday as a way to thank clients for them. So to say that we are completely closed Monday through Friday is not true. We do have people that either rent the facilities or, come out and use the
But
facilities.
you don't
So
rent them all though, in this, like Brahma State Park, let's use that for an example.
Yeah.
How many pavilions are there, 10 or 15 of them?
I don't know off the top of my head,
Yeah,
but
let's say 10. So
Right.
they're not renting all 10 of them, they're gonna rent half of them probably, right?
they are renting the large signature shelter, the group area,
Right,
and
so
then the
there's
meeting
other
room.
alternatives during
Right.
the week for other people to rent. So we're not gonna
Correct.
rent them all, no matter what, during the week. And so my point is if these are all taxpayers in the county, because they live in the county, they go to Winsville schools. I don't know how appropriate it is, and I know you're doing what you gotta do, but when I heard that we're charging school, I was kinda shocked by that. But what I would like to see is, what is the cost? When I say cost, I'm talking about, do we have to have, you said, or someone said that they have to have extra personnel on hand, or whatever those sort of things are. Those are hard costs, those are extra costs.
And those are the things that are shown on our sheet, and we've waived those on here. When we
If
have
you
the
got
sheet
a-
that'll send out,
yeah, that's fine.
we'll send
If
it
you
out,
got-
and we could show you exactly what we could have charged and what, we
Okay,
are not
that's fair-
charging,
fair
so.
enough. An executive summary would be perfect,
yeah.
and that's
And
good
like I
enough.
said, they asked to rent these because they want to ensure that they are available for them, to use, for these time periods and stuff. So, and our way that we look at it, like I said, it's charging the rental fees, for facilities like that. It's pretty common. I pulled up the Winsville School District, and if I wanted to rent their gymnasium for 40 days, it would cost me about $30,000.
Yeah,
So
but here's the thing, I don't care what other
Yeah,
else is doing, but the fact is the parents are the ones gonna be paying for it when they already paid the taxes. And so I'm not sure I'm a
Right.
big fan of this, but.
Well, I know, like I said, my kids go to schools too, and, we pay for school field trips and stuff too. I mean, it's a thing that,
Oh, I know.
they do, so.
It takes some thought. I
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
Mr. Cronin?
$25 a kid, is that paid by the school district or is that paid by the parents?
I pay for the parents.
Okay, well, if I get this right, Dale Shaper, I've known since high school, okay? So, and he called me after the last meeting. And he told me that basically the bill's $37,000 for 1,500 fifth graders to go one time a year to two parks. So breaking that down, so if I was a resident out there, I think, well, geez, I pay taxes to Winsville School District, I pay taxes to St. Charles County Parks, and then they're whacking me another $25 a shot for my kid. And, to me, it's a bit excessive, and here's the other thing that I really don't want to happen, that I think might happen. Mr. Shaper said there's a possibility that they may not approve this. I mean, the schools are tight right now. They've had to pay teachers and for all this online learning, so that their budgets are tighter than heck. So I really don't want to see those kids miss out this experience because Winsville School District can't swing $37,000. So I'll look the information you sent real thoroughly. John Grice, who called me on the way to this meeting tonight, because I requested this information from Donna. And I'll get it on to him, but if we look at it and I don't like it, I think we ought to think about waiving that for schools in this county. I mean, you got a $23 million budget for parks improvements. Do we really need $37,000 from school district? That's my point, okay?
Mr. Hammond.
Yeah, it seems kind of cheesy to me.
I could tell you I would not have a problem waiving fees for the schools if that's what the rest of the council wants to do. So that's three of us.
Well, but I would also point out to the fact where you said that Winsville may not spend this money. This is not Winsville school budget money because this is money that the families paid on top of it.
No. They're also tagging the school district 37 grand.
But the money's being passed
Collected through the school district.
The school district's a
And
pass-through.
the contract is 35.9.
So this didn't come out of the school district's budget. This came out of the parents paying the $25 fee to go on the field trip, just like all of us has paid for all of our kids to go on all these field trips wherever they've gone. It's always an extra spoof that we've done. And even when your kid has to go use an O'Fallon Park or a St. Charles Park, and I shouldn't speak out of turn because I don't know for sure that that's what it is. But I know when my kids have gone on field trips before, the school didn't pay that. we had to pay it, and whatever kids paid the fee got to go on the field trip. So I want to see the information and just see what it looks like before we go anywhere from there. Any other questions?
From a teacher's viewpoint, having those kids gone that day is well worth that.
So the teachers may all bond together and pay that $25
And I will gladly pay $25 to have my daughter tired out for the rest of the night. Yeah.
There you go. Joanne?
If you do proceed with a bill, may I suggest that you do limit a certain number of days out of the year? Because once the school districts know it's free, you're probably going to have all the school districts interested in this. So, I mean, there is some significant use during the weeks when you bundle it of the large facilities that they want
Right.
access to.
Mr. Elman?
Yeah, and under the charter, if you provide it to Wentzville, you got to provide it to every other school.
So every school district in St. Charles County would have this open,
Yeah.
which would pretty much shut down a lot of our, especially large pavilions, to anybody else who wanted to use it during the year. It would not be available for them to use. I understand what you're saying about everybody's paying taxes, but so are the people who are renting those shelters anyway. So to use that logic, we should make the shelters free for everybody all year long. I mean, that would cut the same way. So, yes, Mr. Cronin.
I'd like, Ryan, would you like to take a look at the occupancy levels of those shelters and what impact it would be? Let's say if we said every kid in this county could go through his schools. You don't have to do it now, I'm just saying between now.
I'm just trying to write notes.
Okay.
I guess I'll watch this on
forward this
YouTube.
to you.
Hey, it's recorded for your
Yeah, I'll just have to
I'll tell you what, I'll
viewing
say it now, and I'll
pleasure.
forward you an email tomorrow.
Okay.
But see what the impact of, what your occupancy rates are for these shelters for the various parks. And what impact that would be your bottom line if we would let every kid in this county go to 2 events, 2 shelters once a year, okay? You see what I'm saying? I would think your occupancy level on weekdays is probably not even 50%, is it? Okay?
So 2 kids to go to a shelter for 2
I'm saying if
days?
they
Don't do the math right now.
Okay,
We'll-
yeah, yeah.
We'll
Same,
work it
same
out
thing that they're
later.
doing
Just
in
send the email.
Wentzville. From what I understand, in Wentzville, they go to 2 parks 1 day a year, right?
It's a week-long camp.
Huh?
It's a week-long camp.
It's a week.
It's a week-long camp. So what that impact would be? to
$5 a day for the kid, I think.
Okay, what I'm asking is what the impact would be to the parks if you found, if you had it in times when the parks weren't occupied anyway.
Okay, we can try to pull those numbers.
All right, thank you very much. So with that, we will move on to the consent agenda. Any items to be removed from the consent agenda? Motion to accept, do I hear a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Consent agenda is passed. Move on to bills for final passage. Bill number 4942.
Bill number 4942, an ordinance amending the 2021 budget adopted by ordinance 20-094 as amended for a position within the St. Charles County Department of Community Development.
Any questions or comments about this bill? Seeing none, call the roll, please.
Bill number 4942, an ordinance amending the 2021 budget adopted by ordinance 20-094 as amended for a position within the St. Charles County Department of Community Development. Councilman Cronin.
Yes.
Councilman Brazel.
Yes.
Councilman Hammond.
Yes.
Councilman Elam.
Yes.
Councilman Hollander.
Yes.
Councilwoman Schneider.
Yes.
Councilman White.
Yes.
Bill number 4942 passes. Move on to bill number 4943.
Bill number 4943, an ordinance authorizing the county executive to execute an intergovernmental cooperation agreement for the operation of a port authority between St. Charles County, Missouri and the St. Charles County Port Authority.
Any questions or comments about this bill? Mr. Cronin?
I'm willing to go along with this, and I voted for the $100,000 for the PGAV study last meeting, only I'm very cautious about this, simply because I think it's an opportunity, if it's used correctly, to get some of this upcoming infrastructure money. But I'm really worried about having unelected folks who do not answer to a legislative body like us in charge of that have the power to raise taxes, use eminent domain, and set up TIF districts countywide in Tower County. So I'm going to ask that we keep these folks on a short string and watch them real closely, because I hate to see any of that get abused.
Any other questions or comments?
If I remember correctly, the way it's set up, they got 2-year terms, and they got to be appointed by the county executive and voted by the council.
Correct.
So that's how the checks and balances are.
We'll find out.
Yeah.
It's a separate political entity.
Please call the roll.
Bill number 4943, an ordinance authorizing the county executive to execute an intergovernmental cooperation agreement for the operation of a port authority between St. Charles County, Missouri and the St. Charles County Port Authority. Councilman Brazel.
Yes.
Councilman Hammond.
Yes.
Councilman Elam.
Yes.
Councilman Hollander.
Yes.
Councilwoman Schneider.
Yes.
Councilman White.
Yes.
Councilman Cronin.
Yes.
Bill number 4943 passes. With that, we'll move on to bills for introduction, starting with bill number 4946.
Bill number 4946, requested by Michael Hurlbert, sponsored by Joe Brazel. An ordinance of the County of St. Charles, Missouri vacating Lot 3A of the re-subdivision of Lot 3 of the Hoffman Hills subdivision.
Does anybody want to continue to discuss this one? I think we're good. So we'll move on to bill number 4947.
Bill number 4947, requested by Tim Lomar, sponsored by Mike Elam. An ordinance amending the 2021 budget adopted by ordinance 20-094 as amended for transfer of positions within the St. Charles County Prosecuting Attorney's Office.
Anybody have any questions or comments about this?
I
mean, he sat through the entire meeting. Do you really want to let him just escape? Mr. Cronin?
Well, I'll tell you what, if I get a speeding ticket on the way home to St. Paul, I'll probably get 20 years to life, okay? I'm very sorry you sat through this. I had a question about this bill simply because, and I sent Tim an email about it because I wanted to give him a heads up. And I have no issues whatsoever with you getting an additional attorney for the criminal cases you need. But I hate like hell to see you lose a child support attorney that's paid for by the state of Missouri, you know, and so that's my concern. I'd like to see you get that additional criminal attorney and retain that child support attorney, sir.
I appreciate that, Councilman Cronin. One thing I should point out with the child support attorney, the state, we have a cooperative agreement with the state that they reimburse the county fully for that attorney's time, but we have to submit timesheets. And one of the requirements is they